Evening, everybody. We are ready for some more House of Light tonight. I'm going to take a minute here to just get myself set up on stream, and we should be seeing something from Book of Hours in a little bit. I've got the Books Are the Memory Which Does Not Die, inscribed in 5 languages over the gate of Hush House. There we go. All right, let me just get my stream manager up, and then... Oh, somebody followed. I didn't notice. I'd been dropping a few followers lately, so thank you for those of you who came along for the ride when I wasn't looking. It's very much appreciated. So we are on to patch 2024 8H15. My name is Hokabal Deposen. Do not mangle it in your peasant mouth. I believe this one had a few other... so it looks like these notes here haven't changed. I think there was something that had mentioned on the Steam page, some of the MFW, FML, etc. Yeah, a fix specifically for the logo not changing when you switch specifically from Chinese to Russian in the menu. Another fix for the bug the logo caused, where all the buildings in Brandkrug look like the Sweet Bones. So something that wouldn't have affected me. Now, there was a note on the blog, and actually this is one that I think is going to be worth reading out. So we're going to take a second here to go to weatherfactory.biz. I feel that this is... so obviously there's going to be a certain amount of interest in the in some of the merch that's associated with this game. And in particular, this one is going to have a limited run, and so while it is certainly to my advantage to have people not crowd in on this, clearly the support for the for the developer probably overrides my particular interests. So here we have the secret colors of the sun. Facts are like cows. If you stare them in the face hard enough, they generally run away. Mervyn Bunter, Clouds of Witness, 1926. Facts are the bricks of life, but they need a few licks of paint before you want to look at them. Mr. Gradgrind of Bleak House says, now what I want is facts. Teach these boys and girls nothing but facts. Facts alone are wanted in life. Plant nothing else and root out everything else. And he turned out to be the villain of the piece, so today I am giving you facts, but coated in glorious Technicolor. Kieran says, good evening, System Jock, stuck doing the washing up tonight, so you can lurk. Hope you have a good stream. Thank you very much for stopping by, Kieran, as always. You all know that House of Light is launching on Steam and GOG on Thursday, the 26th of September at 6 p.m. BST. I can now confirm that it will cost $14.99 or $12.99 in British pounds or $13.99 in euros with a 10% launch discount in the very first week of sale, except if you are a Perpetual Edition owner, in which case it's free. We'll also be adding a new Book of Hours Anthology Edition bundle, just like Cultist Simulator, which includes the base game, the soundtrack, and House of Light with a 15% off everything discount, making it about $43.32, $35.67, or $41.21 dollars, pounds, and euros in total. This should make it easy for first-time buyers to get the definitive edition of the game with one click, and for existing fans to force gentle occult librarianship on all of their friends by buying it as a gift for someone else. AK has already mentioned this in a few places, but it is worth reiterating that House of Light is roughly comparable in size to all of Cultist Simulator's DLCs wrapped in one. Cultist had a lot of smaller expansions, but we tried something different with Book of Hours and spent much longer making one really chunky expansion rather than lots of little pieces. So just in case anyone was worried about the value of Perpetual Edition dropping, it hasn't. It's all just coming at once this time. And I'm glad that they're actually kind of getting out ahead of this, because I hope that, having done this early beta, and, clearly this is not the full experience, but I think even so far, this is clearly a very impressive and large DLC. But just like, Weather Factory had... So I will say they are continuing their pattern of underpricing their DLC. I feel $15 is a bit cheap for this, but their loss is your gain. And of course, I guess it's not a question in terms of what my value for it is, but what they think the market will bear. So with all of that in mind, Yeah, I think it's worth saying here that, I think if somebody looks at something like Cultist Simulator and then says, well, that one got lots of little DLC and this one just got me one, that's maybe not the framing that's conducive to happiness. In this case here, and you can definitely see in terms of in House of Light, how really well this sort of integrates with the base game. It really is it really is a very deep DLC compared to Cultist Simulator, which I thought had very interesting DLC, but you could sort of see these as sort of standalone sort of bricks in the edifice. Like Exile, I don't think shares anything in common with the base game. I think it's a totally new set of sort of rules and experience, and it's great for it. Like, again, none of this is intended to be a criticism of these things. But obviously, if your frame of reference is to take a look and see, 4 individual items for Cultist Simulator, and then you take a look at Book of Hours and you see like one big one, you're like, well, where's my other DLC? Well, the answer is that all went into this huge expansion. Depending on how House of Light goes and how pre-production on our Mysterious Game 3 goes, we'll make a decision in the first half of 2025 about whether we come back to Book of Hours and release additional expansions like House of Hues. More on that as/when we have updates. So again, they're not ruling out the idea of an additional expansion. However, there is, I imagine one of the determinations is also how well House of Light sells. Obviously, if there isn't the same appetite for the expansion as there may have been for the base game, I imagine that there will be some questions in terms of. I imagine there will be some considerations in terms of that. Kieran says, I've heard people say you need a $to-hour ratio, which is rubbish, as I completed the Dredge DLC in like 6 hours and I spent a good £15 on it. It was so worth it. $to-hour ratio is for people who don't understand numbers, right? By that logic, free-to-play games are of infinite value. Like gifted games are of infinite value. The beginner's guide is the worst game ever because that can basically be completed in like under 2 hours. Absolute nonsense for people who just simply do not have the capability of coming up with a better measure of value. It's the old definition of miser, right? Someone who knows the price of everything and the value of nothing. I hate that ratio so much because these are the types of people who love to mock if I do some sort of analytical thing that, is counterintuitive or, the realized value is different. These are the people who love to talk about how experts don't know anything. And yet they sit down and they just divide by the 2 numbers that they have available. And somehow they're going to start telling game developers how to make their games based off of this idiotic ratio that they come up with. I could not, in case you haven't noticed, I have nothing but contempt for that measure. I put money into life hours. Is this worth an hour? Yeah, I mean, this is probably a more sensible way to think of money, right? Like, all of us have different background skills. We have a job. There's essentially, for better or worse, there are... there are certain values that have been assigned to our ability to get things done, right? And just about every job I've worked with, particularly since I've gotten my degree, I know that I am underpaid relative to other stuff that I could be doing. And sometimes I've kicked myself for not going into consulting immediately out of school. And I love the place where I work right now, but I do still know they're kind of getting me for a bargain. All things being equal. And I realize that this sounds like immodest and people don't like it when people talk this way about themselves. All of this is intended to be an assessment of my value in potentially other situations, compared to now, and recognizing that sometimes there are values, that go beyond money. And everybody's kind of got their own sort of judgment for these sorts of things. But, you know, in the end, we have a certain value assigned to our labor, and that takes quite a bit of our time. And so this is exactly, this is exactly how you should be thinking about it, right? There's so many hours that you have given up in order to be able to get this game. Is it worth it, right? Was it worth putting your effort in to make this work? I kind of wanted to do Tactical Breach Wizards tonight because I like Tom Francis's games. I had a very nice opportunity to actually meet him in Vancouver once. Very brief, like I'm sure he wouldn't remember me. But, I found him very nice, and I actually really like watching some of his YouTube stuff. But, I also really like Weather Factory's games, and I'm sort of aware of the fact that there's a lot for me to engage with in House of Light. There's really not that much time left in the beta. So I want to do my best as I can as someone who plays the game very slowly. I really want to do my best in terms of communicating what I know about the game and how the experience has gone. But I am going to get on to the long-awaited news that they talk about, the Lucid Tarot. And I was actually quite sad to hear that apparently there was an original manufacturer that basically ran off with the money. So that was unfortunate, especially because I know this has gotten a lot of work put into it. But the Lucid Tarot finally has a release date, and that release date is Halloween, Thursday, the 31st of October, 2024. This is the thing that I wanted to read out for people because I think there will be some interest in this. We will be releasing it on our Etsy shop. I'll put that link into the Discord. It will cost £70 plus shipping, and it will be starting with 500 signed limited edition copies. Every deck comes with a velvet tarot bag and a quick start guide, but the first 500 decks will also contain a certificate of authenticity signed and numbered by the artist. Once these are gone, they're gone, so if the Tarot of the Hours and Lady Afterwards launches are anything to go by, I'd suggest camping out on the Etsy shop at this time on Halloween and grabbing a copy while they're still there. If you miss out on the first 500, don't worry. Like we did with the Tarot of the Hours, we will make sure that everyone in all time zones has a fair chance of getting a deck. We'll release another 500 Lucid Tarots over the November-December. If we sell out, we'll restock for 2025. So everyone who wants a deck will be able to get one. We just have to take it slow, so I and my mom and dad, who have been unceremoniously roped in for packing duty, can manage demand. Right, see you on the other side of our simplified Chinese and Russian release, which is happening next week on the Thursday of the 29th of August. Wish us luck. Good luck, Weather Factory. So, I know some of you are very excited by this. I actually really appreciate them letting people kind of know the price in advance in terms of the October 31st deadline. Gives people a chance to save up. That's obviously not a small amount of money, but I will definitely say I've been happy with everything that I've gotten from the Etsy shop. But for those of you that were specifically looking, so if you have to have it right away, obviously the 31st at 6 p.m. GMT is your time there. If you don't care about when you get it, you just want one, obviously this later part about all time zones is there, but clearly the idea of the signed limited edition copy is a tempting one, right? So I figured that was my little bit of I don't know. Sorry, the saw message. Okay. So we are ready to jump back into the House of Light. Welcome back, Librarian. Everything is remembered. Hush House endures. The game loaded successfully. And we get to hear Subtle Old Soldier. Bless your hearts. Oh, no, not quite. It's getting closer. The pound notes are... Oh, yeah, no, it's a little... So I think there's something related to localization that may have caused the behavior that I'm getting with the sundries slot. I'm trying not to be too much of a whiner about it. Like, my view on this, right, is that it's like any kind of criticism or it's like any kind of comment. If there is a point of disagreement on something, you know, you state it once, you state it as clearly as you can, right? You make the best case for your version of the world. I say this because I was actually doing both peer reviews and having my work peer reviewed, and there's always going to be stuff that you disagree with people. That is just the nature of the beast. But obviously, you can be annoying about it and just constantly repeat the same thing. Obviously, you know, if you're telling a joke, you're telling a joke. But like, the worst criticism that I've seen, I hope I haven't given it, and I'm pretty lucky that I haven't received it. I have observed it, though, is basically just constantly repeating the same thing over and over again and, like, never giving an inch. And there is definitely some value in terms of articulating it strongly, but there's a certain point where people just dig in their heels because of how annoying it's getting. So with that in mind, you know, I've now stated it. I am not going to dwell on the matter as we carry on. So I'm going to take a quick second here and bring up the recipes. So there's a few things that I want to do today. One of those things is going to be to try and traverse the Tree of Wisdoms a bit better. Actually, let me just bring up, I put my tablet on charge, but that doesn't mean I can't consult it. So one of the things that I was a little late for on the starting the stream was I did want to take some notes on skills. Now, I didn't make that much progress, so I don't think it's all that helpful for people. But, well, we'll do our best. Now, I think I worked out my path. Yes, so we had Horamakastri, Bosk, Hushery as the main paths. And what I'm really looking for in terms of the paths, I want to get to Hushery 6. 5 is a good start because that opens up Nyctodromi for me. But yeah, basically I'm trying to get a few of my different skills, or my different trying to get a few of the branches of the Tree of Wisdom sort of sorted out. And one of the things that I can do in the sort of the interim is I can try and use my some of my how do I put this? Like, I'm using the opportunity. I'm using whatever skills and, you know, abilities that I have to kind of go through the house, right? I'm using Mr. Kill to get higher levels in the house. There is one temptation here, right? Is to level up the Whist, right? To bring that, make that 2 Whist pluses or even a Whist plus. I'm trying to avoid doing that for the simple reason that having lots of elements of the soul is going to be what allows me to break up Horns and Ivories and level up some of these other things. So I think we're going to need to wait on the weather to see whether or not I can... Yeah. I think we're going to need to wait on the weather to see whether or not I can open up another room. I definitely feel like cooking is a good idea. Pretty sure we can't get any more pears. Yeah. All right, let's take a quick second here. So if I were to make a dish, let's sort these by the ones that are blank. Maybe not. Let's... Actually, do I have dough is the first question, because making dough would probably be the most sensible thing for me to start with. I do have one dough. All right. So for the dough things, we've got the amber pumpkin pie. Now I'm a little more reluctant to make that. Actually, you know what? Crusty bread would be a good one to make. Baked bread. It's a simple one, but there's... basically, this is opening up potential other recipes for me. I might even make 2 loaves of bread, but I'll start with the one. And obviously, I'll need to make more dough, but we'll wait on that. I've carried a memory like a flambeau safe through the mazes of night. So we've got our savage hymn. Still no weather yet. There we go. Rainy day. Okay. So soft rain brings life. This is kind of interesting. I don't normally use Grail and Nectar, but let's maybe see. So there's a couple things that we can do. One, we can take a look and see if Mrs. Kill is available to move through the, or like move through another level. I'm actually going to take a minute and evaluate the feasibility here. Okay, so we've got Mrs. K. She starts with 2. Arab gives us another 2. The tool gives us 1, that's 5. So rain is 7. Now, of course, rain isn't all that special on its own. We do, you know, we have other ways of getting more Grail. Okay, so that's the memory, the tool. All right, so this is where it gets a little more tricky, because I do have some recipe. I'm going to just see if I can get the mic adjusted. We do have some things that will improve her stats. So for instance, if we were to give her a drink, that takes it up to 9. But the tricky part here is, do I have any food? In fact, I seem to recall... I seem to recall thinking that we were going to give her... Oh yeah, it was something like the baked pear meringue. I mean, we can do the baked pear meringue. I'm just trying to think if there's another option we have in terms of Grail food. Because the drawback here is that with the Grail food, we're 1 short of where we need to be. Now, one option there, of course, would be fabric, but fabric's something I'd want to use for other things. So then, of course, the other alternative is to say, well, let's just maybe hold off on the Grail antics, right? Like the rain isn't that powerful of a memory, and I already have the ability of getting satisfaction. So all that I'm really saving here is an element of the soul for further use. And I think that's going to be where I fall on it. Now, we do potentially have something we can do with Denzil. So let's do a similar exercise with Denzil and see what kind of... see if he can open up anything. Okay, so Denzil is worth 2 on his own. So then we give him the metal. That's good for 4. Tool is good for 1, 5. Memory, at least 2. So then from there we can give him the tea. So that brings him up to 9. That brings us to an old problem, right? Where do we get that second forge from? Now, one bit of luck that I have is I can give him copper wire, which is a bit different from some of my other... I think Armagnac also... Nope, that gives us moon. Yeah, so I have the option of giving him the metal, which is a little painful, although we can order the metal now, so that's not as bad as it used to be. And then in terms of forge items, well, there's the beef, the almonds too, but the almonds are worth 1. Okay, you know what? I think we're going to hire Denzel for tonight, or today. Now, unfortunately, that does mean that we need to give up I believe a heart or a... edge heart or forge. Well, I suppose that means that I can use the Arab in this case. Well, no, we won't use the Arab though, for the simple reason that I may want to use the weather to read a particular book. So I think in this case I will give up the core just because it's the one that's available. So Denzel will talk about practical matters, though he prefers to sit in silence. A shilling will buy his help for a day. What do you need? All right. The final thing that I want to work out for today is how I'm going to use this rain. So let's say on its own, just as a sample, we take the Arab. I don't really have much in terms of Grail to work with. I think I should have a Grail 3 though. Resurgences and Emergences? Nope. Spoke too soon. Surely Great Signs and Great Scars. Yeah, that'll do the trick. Well, here we go. I learned how to make a witching to sane. Fancy that. Okay, we'll add the spice scales, and then I'll just add 2 to anything that I have here just as a point of reference. So, yeah, we get 8, which means I should be pursuing basically level 10 Grail books, if I can. So Calcite Supplications is an example of that, Intimations of the Skin. I believe both of those would be books, yeah, that we already have level 2 for. Orchid Transfigurations gives us Resurgences and Emergences, Rose of Nuriel, Great Signs and Great Scars, and A Journey to the Grove. Now, Journey to the Grove is tempting because of Orchids and Narcotics, which is a new one for me. So yes, I think we are actually going to try A Journey to the Grove tonight. Now, I do still need to get the Grail memory, so for that we are going to use a Whist. And we will read Fecry's Herbery for that. Ooh, new font. I've already mastered this, but I could reread it and perhaps recall a memory. And because I do place a value on gardening, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to buy back the Grail, or the core at the Sweet Bones. So I have the day's tasks. Let's see how I handle them. I may also want to get an egg, but I've kind of decided to work with Denzel tonight, so Denzel the blacksmith will lend me his strength for the day. Speak to Denzel, he might even reply. Collaborate metal, inspiration and determination, boosts forge and edge. So I have a couple of things that I need to do to get to the point where Denzel's most useful for me. One thing I can do is serve the tea, serve appropriately, pour out. Poured out. Nope, I did say I was going to get that core back. It is winter and the storms have tightened the seas. I am sitting before the fire in the Sweet Bones with a beef and potato pasty in one hand and a hot ale posset in the other. So I think as far as baking is concerned, I'm going to bake bread, make a replacement dough, and then we'll see what the rest of the day brings me. Okay, so I've collaborated on metal. We might as well start with we might as well move on to the tea in this case. The Veiled Goddess Lapsang Souchong, a cup named for an enigmatic minor deity whose charge is the healing of burns. Alright, crusty bread. Use bread with a knife and mushrooms, ham pilchards, or other savory things, or add apples and spice for a classic English pudding. Oh, there's actually quite a bit for us to do with that. Alright. Let's put the bread up here. So clearly I want to try those, I want to try some of those new recipes, but we need butter. Oh, you know what, let's use one of the ones up here. Mixed dough, an ingredient for a higher purpose. I'm going to take my chances with Denzel to see if we can maybe get him to give me the foresight, but Fekri's Herbery, the early wisdom of Isan Fekri, at that point a traveling healer, much later the Secretary Salvant of the Curia of the Isle. As a Scaptodon, Isan may consume only that which is found in the earth, so he is best with root lore. Isan identifies a pale seaweed found in the beaches of Cornwall as a useful source of rose and winter aspect. His tone here is a little guilty, perhaps because he's showing an interest in sea produce, which might be thought unwise for a Scaptodon, and perhaps because his proposal to name it Ava's Locks suggests a tiny crush on the pale lady of Brankrug. Satisfaction. Some appetites are easier to satisfy than others. So again, we're taking a chance here, but we're going to grab the Arab, we're going to grab the Satisfaction, we will employ the Great Signs and Great Scars. The priority here is to read a book that will give me a new skill rather than leveling up ones that we already have. And then, if this doesn't turn out, you know, a shame, but we have the conditions where it's most likely that this will work. So perhaps you provided Grail, but not enough to match Mystery Grail. If you're lucky, you might still succeed. Frustration or temptation. And of course, we'll still take care of our different duties over the course of the day. Now, I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I really want to do with... So with Orchids and Narcotics, I think really it's a question of Grail and Nectar. So there's no reason for me to hold off with the Tryst. So I think we're going to keep going back to a few activities. Actually, I'm going to take Pearl and Tide here, and I'm going to take a walk on the moor, so we can use Inks of Power for that. But when it comes to my other Tryst, I think I'm going to take my chances at the Nocturnary. So if I take Edict's Marshal with a Tryst, presumably then I add the Lunar Glow. Nope, I got to do that at a desk. And that's not the right desk. So Edict's Marshal with a Tryst and a Lunar Globe here allows me to build an Old Wound. Don't know why I didn't take the flower that was in my inventory, but there you have it. Down to the Grushians. This has boosted their aspects appropriately. Okay, so remembering that with Denzel, we wanted to give him metal, we wanted to give him a tool, a memory, the tea, and then the metal. So in this case, we'll give him the square, the Mason's Pride. Proffer a tool. Actually, you know what? This time we'll give him the Spanners. When you need them, you need them. I can lend my assistants something to help increasing their abilities. So this will bring them up to 7. The metal will bring them up to 9, and we want them to get to level 11. So I'll use the Whist and the Sweet Bones to make a bit of money. I could offer help with correspondence and arithmetic. There's no school in Brankrug, and not everyone here knows their letters. So remembering here, we need to get him to 11 Forge. So again, we've currently got 6. We're bringing them up to 7. We need 4 more. 2 from the memory, 2 from the wire. And we still have plenty of time in the day to talk and try and get the foresight. Although clearly with the whist, that's not a major problem. All right, let's talk about wire. I guess I put this in the surplus, yeah. Wire, copper, the Malachite's metal. Additional supplies, I can offer my assistant metals, mundane or exotic. This will increase their aspects, they'll keep any of the metal that's left over. Alright, there's our ingredient for a higher purpose. I'm gonna put this aside. Okay, so I want to try and follow some of the advice of on the crusty bread and see what other recipes that we can make. So use bread with a knife and mushrooms, ham, pilchards, or other savory things, or add apples and spice for classic English pudding. So I think I'm going to start with the apple and spice. So we should have... Oh, not... Those are onions. I thought there were apples and... Anyways, we have some here. It's a little bit easier for me to use... Actually, it's the only option that I have here. Aha! Oh, here we go. A bacon apple... an apple charlotte. Alright. So that will give us... Or sorry, that I need... Now, interestingly enough, it didn't say... Yeah, bread and use a knife for plum croutons, which we should already know. Yes. Okay, so ham is the ham and cheese toasty, if I'm correct. Yes. Now, mushrooms we don't have... Well, actually, I'm curious if we could put the pickled mushrooms in now, because I think there was... Oh, interesting. A dish with heart, moon, nectar, and scale. Tastier with fresh mushrooms, but this will do. I think this is a concession, saying it's like, all right, fine. So, crusty bread... I think we said ham and cheese toasty already. Yeah. What were the other ones they suggested? Pilchards, I think we also had. Yeah, so we already had pilchards on toast. So it says other savory things. So let's take a minute here and see. Okay, so... So yeah, the mackerel didn't do anything. Beef? Nope. Hasn't? No. I have a feeling I did this already. What else would I even consider at this point? I mean, for this, we'd probably want to add the spices. Okay. You know what? This is sufficient anyway. So we already have dough set aside if I want to try another dish, or I can try and do something more with this crusty bread. I think I'm going to keep going through my dough list. So it's tempting to make an apple pie, but I don't have that many apples. So let's make a game pie with pheasant. So I can roast a pheasant. I don't think I have a roast pheasant yet. Bake a game pie, a dish with forge, heart, knock, moth, rose, scale, and sky. Okay, still more that we can do. I think part of today might even be just converting things like Fost and Whist into coins that I can use to restore my health and Grail. All things being equal, obviously I want to make sure that I get my foresight as well. Okay, there's still a chance. So we have art, it's educational, extra effort, soul, only connect memory. Okay, so memory is going to save me. I think actually I could have combined the art and the core, but memory is better. Move gingerly while the pain lasts. Alright, let it clutter up their shelves. So at this point, it's really just a question of waiting for the memory. So if we get to the birds and the bells, we will... So let me actually just think about what I've got. So 1, 2... I'm going to restore a health first. Okay, we don't even get the option of the art, but that's fine. Unexpected finds in the folds of earth and sky. Yew black, a wood sacred to the Malachite, who is also called the ring yew, but also the tree that the dead pass in the dark. So this is nice because we were looking to restore some of the yew that we had used previously. We also have contraband flotsam. Now the consider verb is going to be used up for the better part of today, so I'm going to keep that in my inventory. But while we are working, let's take... I guess I can use Edict Martial here. I definitely feel like going to the moor is worth quite a bit more now because of the cooking ingredients, and I think that may be the intention behind that particular change. Okay, hindsight doesn't quite help me, but he does a lot with silence, this man. Okay, A Journey to the Grove. Black Ellie, who much later became Damascene matriarch of the Sisterhood of the Knot, recounts her journey to the Grove of Green Immortals. In the Grove, Ellie meets with an entity identified as Three Faces, Nine Colors, who may have become her lover. Three Faces is a name of the Apple Bright, the nowhere hour of youth, healing, and mutation. It offers Ellie a form of eternal youth to take back west with her, which she rejects for certain reasons. She does promise, however, to renew their acquaintance in the season when the Apple Bright is the witch, not from sentiment, but rather grandly to ensure the continuity of the histories. So this gave us a satisfaction. Lessons Orchids and Narcotics. So this is a pretty good little return. I definitely fear the nowhere hours, but Book of Hours has done a very interesting job of making me completely resist and oppose the gods from nowhere. and I am becoming a little bit more interested in, and just like I want to learn a little bit more about them, which I suspect is the intention and how they get you. But I think this game's done a really wonderful job of taking something that normally I would be, very uncomfortable with, and just gradually making it interesting enough to sort of, say, okay, no, I'm gonna see where this is going. So. Alright, so for this we have No Edge, Forge 1, Heart 2, Winter, none of that, Grail, none of that, Knock 1, Scale 1, Sky 1, Moon, no Moon, Nectar, none, Moth 1, Rose 1, and no Lantern. Okay. Pretty decent pie, if you ask me. So, don't have space on this shelf. I do like that my kitchen overfloweth, but it is getting a little awkward to put things down. I guess we've already got the King's Luck pie here, so yeah, there's the jugged pheasant. Guess I'm gonna have to put this up here. We can't host a salon in this room, but I just don't have any other. Actually, no, sorry. We have the cucurbit. Oh wow, that is big. Okay. All right, let's get bacon. Well, I'm probably gonna need this health. Yeah, I'm actually going to need this. Well, yes, I will need the health, but I'm also going to have a health back. So let's keep going. I think the obvious answer here is more dough. Oh, kitchen bowls, right. It's interesting that the moly is an ingredient. I still haven't figured out how to use it. He does a lot with the silence, this man. So I think we have 2 more chats with Denzel before I need to... Actually, realistically, no, 2 more... Well, 2 or 3. I think 2 more for safety. Better now. Alright. I think I want to turn these things into well, yeah. Alright, another leaf on the Tree of Wisdoms. Orchids and narcotics, there is no greed without beauty. And we're going to level this up right away. So we can take orchids and narcotics. So we can also use the satisfaction in this case. So there's the health. There's always more to learn. Improve the skill to level 2. And actually, we will have enough time to be able to open the package, so we might... No. So I think maybe 1 to open the package, 1 to get the foresight if we need it. But still, not a bad use of the day's materials. Regret's close, but we need him at 11. Speak to Denzel, he might even reply. Actually, you know what? Let's not take any chances here. Let's use the whisk now, because I do need to still be able to talk to him. So... my foresight shelf is this one, I think. Yeah. Let's read The War of the Roads again. Ooh, that was close. So let's use my FOSS to check out the shipwreck. Okay, we've got our dough back. So all in all, not a bad day in terms of just getting stuff done and built. No real time to... well... yeah, I don't think it's a good idea to try and cook anything. Alright, the quartz chunk, again, I still haven't really been able to find a... I haven't been able to find a use for it, but... well, sorry, I don't mean to say there's no use for it, but I haven't... it's not the sort of thing where I, like, leap... actually, same with Curious Seashells. Brad Kruger said, to lie in the bounds where the world ends, odd creatures have made their dying way to the beach. Had a manager argue with you over the top that you wore to work. Your washing machine broke with your uniform inside, so I wore a white top identical to a work top, and he was still mad because it was off-white. No, sir, I just don't know how to separate my washes. Sorry to hear. Sorry to hear you'd have to deal with that, Kieran. Obviously, you know, work is always a drag, but there are more and less... all right. Denzel wound up delivering the foresight after all. On Wit's Forge and Fire Blast, meanings press and screw. Coleridge on Donne's poetry. But yeah, obviously this is one of these things which is just petty enough to be exceptionally annoying. All right, an afternoon spent profitably reading newspapers to the curious, writing affectionate letters for the lonely, steering farmers through the requirements of the Ministry of Agriculture. How you doing, Chunky Man Gamer? So I don't know. I'm pretty happy with how today went. We got another room, or we're about to get another room. We were able to get a book that we normally wouldn't have access to. And I've got a couple more lessons. All right, memories don't last long outside books, but it's made a difference for the day. So, the fallen bells. Someone has smashed the headstocks of the bells so that they fell to the floor here. The stone is cracked beneath them. The noise must have been unbearable. One has fallen against the stairs to the tower top. So that was the main objective of the day. The War of the Roads. Willis Ford describes the War of the Roads, an event in a history other than our own, in detail. From the beginnings as a martial philosophical dispute between the dawn and sunset roads of alchemy to a war which ravaged half of Europe. It is now widely believed that the sons and daughters of the Red Rose were forged into immortals. Understandably, they are, after all, now all long dead. The Forge itself devoured the greatest of them. The royalty of England, according to Willis Ford, became the sovereigns of the leashed flame, destroying and transforming their enemies, conquering Europe, establishing great cathedrals to St. Spark. The alliance with the Forge begins to take its toll. At last, the Bronze King undergoes his great misfortune and great debasement, and is afterwards known as the Copper King. His attempt to cheat the Forge ends badly. The leashed flame is released, and the King's heirs are merely mortal sovereigns. So as much as I'd like to keep this one, we're probably going to hang on to the Savage Hymn. I seem to remember saying I wanted to do something with Sky on that one. I'm guessing there may be a Sky book. Maybe not. Maybe a scale book? Either way, I should be thinking about my next moves. Okay, and we'll open up the Slim Parcel tomorrow. I wonder if this... I'm trying to remember if the Slim Parcel always produces a wine, or if I'm just, you know, matching it to the closest item available. Now, I'm trying to recall if I can get Mr. Kill to get to a level 12. I know if we have snow, that will work. So Mr. K gives us 2. Whist gives us 2. Let's just say 2 for the sake of argument. Solomon's Preparation is good for 4, so that gives us 10. U blank is good for 1, so that brings us up to 11. So yeah, really the trick here is to get a memory that's good for 1, or alternatively food that gives 1. Giver, Teller, Sure's Tongue, Lady Janice, and Great Paycock are the names of these bells, though they're older than the abbey itself, and those names have certainly been corrupted over the years. By 1915, Sure's Tongue and Lady Janice were too cracked to ring, and the Suppression Bureau paid for them to be recast. Serena Blackwood's quid pro quo for the assistance she gave George Collars with his clock project. So here we have 12 Lantern, 12 Moth, or 12 Sky. The Weird Cursed Spire. 7 years ago, someone pronounced a curse here in the name of the sun and its many selves. This place was not the curse's target, and nor was I, but its poison fills the air around me. I should not enter here until it's cleansed. Speaking of cleansing, I may want to start thinking about which of the relevant skills I level up. I think a lot of this is going to depend on how the weather turns out. The one thing I do know, though, is I'm going to want to cook something. So going on my dough list. So I'm skipping amber pumpkin pie. I also skipped the apple pie. We've already done the cake batter. Do I want to do the pumpkin pie? I haven't really got any replacement pumpkins, although I do have a... Oh, actually I have more than one amber pumpkin. A soft amber pumpkin. Interesting. So soft amber pumpkin, a lovely golden gourd grown beside the soft sea. And an amber pumpkin, a lovely golden gourd grown beside the soft sea. Maybe I will make the pumpkin. I think for this one, I'll use... you know what? I won't use the spice scales, actually. Bake a honey-haunted pumpkin pie. I'm going to take a quick second here and just see... Oh, that's interesting. So it has to be a soft one. Okay. Okay, so we are going to skip over that one then. And that actually takes out all of the different... That's all the dough ingredients. So we're on to... what's the best way for me to do this? I'll look for blank types. Well, you know what? We haven't done an orange jumble yet. So a dish with forge, grail, heart, and lantern. I don't think I need to do anything with the consider verb, so let's use the whist on that. Crack open the container, delight in your discovery. And yeah, we're going to wait on the weather to see the rest of this. A gale. Okay. So this is one of these times I should maybe consider trying to get a... I think if I get a... What was it? So my ideal would be to get the Swaddled Thunder at some point. And the Swaddled Thunder... I mean, that is a really big... That's a really big one to attempt, especially with all of my skills at level 2. But I believe we are able to get that from a Thunderskin's paean, which would be drums and dances, if I'm not mistaken. So with my drums and dances, the trick here too is that there are some things that I can do to push this even further. So let's start with the hallowed drum. Okay, so we've got drums and dances. We throw a core in there. We throw a gale. And we can add either an omen, but I don't think any of our omens currently have grail. We could add sound. Now that's interesting because we could actually use the Perugian diary, so that's going to get us another 2. And in fact, 2 is all I need there. So I think we're going to... Yes, we are going to read the Perugian diaries. I should maybe just take a minute here and see, as far as my heart options are concerned, I think we're short, but let me just see. So Mrs. Kill would give us 1, so then the tool would give us 1, take us up to, us up to 2. So the memory, in this case, would bring us up to 5. So then the core would be good for another 2, which brings her up to 7. And at that point, we would need to give her food and drink. And I think this is where it gets a little weird because we need... I already gave up the Rubywise Ruin. And actually, you know what? We're not even going to consider the rest of that. Thunderskin's Peon is still going to be kind of tough to turn into the Swaddled Thunder, but we just need to do it once, and then we basically get a thunderstorm whenever we want. So, let's start with, first of all, Lantern Book. Do I want to play around with the Watchman's Paradoxes? I think I can live without that today. In fact, we have quite a few Watchman's Paradoxes, so I may want to make some choices in terms of what I do with that. Glimmering is kind of tempting to read because of the bittersweet certainty, but I don't need that right now. So let's say Faust, or actually, yeah, we'll say the Faust gets used to read the Perugian diaries. Sky Echoes. I have already mastered this, but I could reread it and perhaps recall a memory. I think that will be sufficient. Now, what about the rest of the day? We're going to use the whisk to help with letters. We're going to go beachcombing. Oh yeah, I never did decide on a book to read, or if I wanted to read a book, so... So the argument would be the one that gave me great signs and great scars, but we don't have the opportunity to do a 10 Grail book today. So we've got Watchman's Paradoxes. Now, assuming that we didn't want to level up Watchman's Paradoxes on its own, where are you? That is good for Illumination and Nyctodromy, so maybe not the highest priority right now. Resurgences, Rhyme and Remembrance. Now this one's an interesting one, because I level this one up to 2. Excuse me. And then I'd be able... Oh, actually, now that I think of it, I believe Vac has a moon aspect to it. Let me just check my spreadsheet. No, it does not. Okay, so much for that. I could use it to elevate sea stories. Here's another thing I'm going to take a look at, though. Let's get a quick list of the books that I can theoretically repair. So I currently have... So these are afflicted with keeper skin. No good for infestations. I can never remember which of these. Okay. Heart, moon, sky, lantern, and nectar. Okay, so all of this is nectar. So I've got 2. I can bring a heart to that, which would bring it up to 3. Well, we can actually kind of simulate this here already. So I'd say, okay, I've decided, enough is enough. Let's heal some of these books. How am I going to accomplish that? So we say, okay, well, we'll start with true and complete accounting of the Asclepian mysteries of the roots of the house. And then we say, we know we have to put herbs and infusions in because that has the effect of against corruption and it has the nectar aspect. And then we say, okay, now we add the earth sign. And we say, okay, that's all well and good, but you're still short 2 nectar. Now, it would seem to me the answer to that is we say, but we have Ugal. And I'm trying to remember if I actually have Ugal anywhere in the house. The places I should be looking are at the various desks. I may have used Ugal for something else. Yeah, that's Houndsgull. Ashertine. 2 Ashertine. This doesn't have any ink. Shameful. I think this is Perinculate? Yeah. Okay, so clearly priority number 1. Make some Ugal. So let's go to... Well, I guess we're already at Nona's desk, so we'll drop herbs and infusions and the... Alright, now this is an interesting dilemma. Because I don't believe any of the inks actually provide nectar. So I can add the mortar and pestle. But the funny thing is, I don't actually think we have any way of getting enough sort of extra here. So I suppose this is an argument. Well, no, actually, I can't level up the skill. I would have to get something that gives me more nectar. And I'm actually trying to remember what would give me that much nectar. That's maybe beyond my current capabilities. So when I think about nectar stuff, like I'm thinking of pears, I'm thinking of like the sacrament malachite's an example of a nectar. But these are all like ingredients. I'm trying to think of nectar things that I can get. There's drums and dances, which gives me a savage hymn, but then I think the Hive's Lament gives me something. But the Hive's Lament is a higher level nectar memory, so we're back to the same problem. I would need 10 rather than 5. That actually is kind of an argument for drums and dances to go higher in the Tree of Wisdoms, actually. So, actually, let's turn this around. Let's say we have a candidate now for something further along the line, right? We'll say that drums and dances is something that should be higher in the Tree of Wisdoms. And so with that in mind, let's think of the heart and nectar books that we can read. And I believe I had a weaving and not working somewhere in here. Apparently not. It's a little bit of a shame, actually, because I really feel like this... Well, one option I have is I level up spices and savors, and then I put the extra point into drums and dances. But again, then there's the argument to put more into herbs and infusions. Oh, why do I make this so difficult for myself? Okay. So let's take a different approach here. So I say, okay, I take the White Book of Brittany, and we have a Ragged Crossroads there. So the Ragged Crossroads will currently go into Lantern or Skolakosophy, neither of which I really need at the moment. So if I say, okay, so let's repurpose the Ragged Crossroads. What am I trying to accomplish either in Orhormakastri, Bosk, or Hushery that will take advantage of Edge or Winter? Now, I suppose one answer here is that we can level up Edict's Marshal, which gives me Wormwood... Actually, you know what? That's the argument right there. We read the White Book of Brittany so we can level up Edict's Marshal and make it easier to get the Wormwood Dream. Sorry that took so long, but I now have my path. This particular one, yep, we're all ready to go. So Winter, a conclusion. I can master this mystery enough Winter to match Mystery Winter. Okay, so I'm probably going to want to keep a Tryst and a Fete aside, but the rest of this, I think we're good to focus on our various... Actually, I guess I can use the metal as well. And Oriflammes. Oriflammes established 1776, Sense Sign Sciences. Dear librarian, we would like to offer you this opportunity to purchase The Origins of Hours. The sage and ecstatic Soham, a frequent visitor to the Mansis, claimed to have discoursed with the beach crow in person. Soham later insisted on a sky burial. Technically not a book I can read right now, but it's a powerful one and we have lots of Spintria, so... So I'm feeling a little wary about not committing skills to the Tree of Wisdoms, but I'm feeling okay in terms of the overall state of the playthrough. The other thing I could potentially do is I could maybe try and host a small salon. So let's, if we did say something in the chapter, that's not a small one. If we tried something in the, okay, that's a picnic. Let's actually take let's do an account of the places that I can host. So... A picnic in the Gulskrai Logia would potentially have 3 guests, but again, that's not a winter thing. I believe this was the first one, this Hall of Division, so we can have 5 guests in this case. Tea would allow us 5 guests. Also 5 guests in the refectory. Now, if I have to have 5 guests, so be it, but it's really a question here of what do I think I'm likely to be able to achieve with my existing elements of the soul. Not every conversation topic is as easy for me. Okay, so picnic in the Physic Garden. Again, that potentially allows me 5. So I think it's fair to say that up to 5 guests would be the order of the day. So... instead of letting the day sort of pass by, let's think about the types of people we might want to invite to the Salon. So, one consideration I would have might be, so we've got the Friar's Tapestry. So Aaron Peel, Connie, and Stanislav. And of course, Aaron we would probably want to try and get the language from as well. Aaron's going to be the difficult one to bring in. Actually, Connie, I think, is a tricky one as well. No, Connie is straightforward. Iron Peel I've made even more difficult. So I'm just gonna mess around a little bit here. So if I were to take the papers, if I added a Tryst, my most moony skill right now is the Tridesma Hyra, although that will change with Edict's Martial. So yeah, I would need a memory with 3 moon. Now, of course, I have the Wormwood Dream, but that's like killing a fly with an anvil. Well, actually, that's not so bad, because I would need Catwink. So maybe I start manufacturing Catwink. That's going to be one for me to think about. I don't really have a lot of good candidates for Catwink right now, though. Let's see what I can manage here. Do I even remember how to make Catwink? Okay, let's start with okay, so Confounding Parables. Okay, Edict's Inviolable allows me to make a Catwink. Not a lot of options here. Okay, Sickle and Eclipse, but that's a lower level skill for me. Okay, so realistically, what did I say it was? Edict's Inviolable. So we add a Tryst, we add Edict's Inviolable, and we bring in like an Intuition or something like that. That's fine. I think I'm going to need to wait on the day, though. But let's say... Okay, so if I bring... Connie Peel and Schaller. Sorry, just give me a second here. Let's also invite... But it's attention getting. Also, how are you doing tonight, Moon Shadow? I did see your message. I hope you're feeling a bit better. All right, let's think about... Actually, hang on. Before I go too far down this path, I believe it said that you can only have one guest from the village. Let's see if that's still true. All right, the room where the Curia, or once the Curia met, a fitting venue for a salon. Here one might serve lunch in the afternoon or supper in the evening. A good host will provide at least one first course, one main course, one side dish, and one pudding. So we've got guest, which can be a visitor or a villager. Not a villager in any of the other slots. Okay, so this seems to be pretty simple for me. The question would be, of these characters, who do I want to add in addition to the 3 people relevant to the last, sort of the last event that I did? So, I suppose one argument might be Yvette Southey because of the extra moon. Zachary Wakefield would also be winter. In fact, Wakefield might be the right call here. Yeah, you know what? Let's say Mr. Kill. Okay, so we've got my guest list. And let's say, for the sake of argument, that we're going to host it in the refectory. I might try and pick I may think of another room which is suitable, but again, I'm trying to plan out here. So under the... So we don't know what Mr. Kill eats and drinks yet, I don't think. But for Schaller, it's heart, food, and drink. For Connie Lee, I am furious with myself for not writing down Connie Lee's food and drink preferences. Thank you very much for the subscription. I am actually missing a few of these. I don't know what I was doing when I was writing down these. So I've got Eason Fekri, Serena Blackwood, Stanislav Josh Schaller, Peter Ekdistis, Douglas Moore, Arthur Moore, Lala Kamia, Ibn Aladim, and Azita Bukhara. So I seem to only have one of my potential guests. I really only have one of them as far as their food and drink preferences go. So that's fine. I mean, we'll work with it. It definitely gives me a reason to sort of try and craft as many of these things as I can. So let's, okay, I'll worry about the invitations in the next day, but our goal is going to be to invite all these. Ooh, something especially tasty. Ruby Wise Ruin, a ruddy liquor wrung from flowers, even when the flowers aren't red. So that replaces the one that we gave up to get into another room. I'm very happy about that. All right, and here's our orange jumble. Let me just start by writing these down. So this is a pudding. And this gives us a Forge and Grail. And 2 heart. Orange jumble. They should be the size of teacup rims and should curl their crisp edges, faintly pink as the underneath of a young mushroom. Lady Jekyll, kitchen essays. Oh, sorry, this also gives us lantern. And of course, always important to read pudding. If you don't eat your meat, you can't have any pudding. How can you have any pudding if you don't eat your meat? From the famous band Muse. And here you thought the exclamation mark was annoying. That is not a Muse song. All right. The dough is already taken care of. I may want to make some cakes. In fact, a lot. You know what? Let's do potato dishes. So game chips I can make with potatoes, dripping, and a knife. Thank you again for the subscription, by the way, Mune Shadow. I know I'm being a pest with the exclamation marks and such. So, all right, so we can do magnificent roast potatoes. I'm going to start with the game chips. So make game chips, a dish with edge, forge, heart, and knock. The Perugian Diaries. In 1907, at the age of 18, Christopher Elapoli left Strathcoyne's household to study theology at the University of Perugia in Italy, enrolling under the name Christopher Strathcoyne. For 4 years since his adoption from a Bristol orphanage, Elapoli served as Strathcoyne's pupil and protege, but his relationship with this austere and secretive man was always complicated. His journal confides, "I think Fraser's intentions are good, certainly he agrees, but I never understood the final goal of his investigations. He was never prepared to enlighten me, and good intentions or not, I can no longer bear this dream of eyes. We've agreed to part almost amicably." Elapoli left Perugia in 1909 without completing his degree. He had long lost interest in his studies, and the latter half of his journal is concerned with his studies of Umbrian folk songs and notes towards his own compositions, which are of widely varying quality. One of the better ones, In the Marshes of Night, suggests he visited the lake of Old Lake Fucinus near Ortuccio. So here we have a cheerful ditty, a rousing little rhythm, which should be sufficient for us to make the Thunderskin's Paean, which of course will also mean that we need to give up the Savage Hymn, but that's life. I'm going to restore the whist with threepence. It is winter, and the storms have tightened the seas. I am sitting before the fire in the sweet bones with a beef and potato pasty in one hand and a hot ale posset in the other. We're still waiting on the opportunity to level up the Edicts Marshal, so I'm just going to hold off on any other details. Let's get to work on the music, though. So core, we'll throw the Gale in. I will use the cheerful ditty as inspiration. Finally, drums and dances. Craft a Thunderskin's Paean. Drum up a heart music. Drums and dances with scholar level heart plus an instrument creates the Thunderskin's Paean. Now, why say Paean and then call it Ericapaean? I don't know. Let's take a minute here. I think I can get my... I don't pay for an Oxford English Dictionary subscription myself, but I do get it through my local library. I'm at least guessing here that Ericapaean and it's the same word, right? A language of surpassing beauty and elusiveness revealed through the ecstatic apprehensions of the Orphics, the Eleusinians, and the Sibyls of the Rhine. Ericapaean, these mystics claimed, allowed the elaboration of hues, sensations, and states of mind too subtle for grosser tongues, also known as the Elcor language. So the idea here is, because these are all sort of religious traditions, it feels like a deliberate connection that's being made. Okay. Takes me a minute to bring up. Okay, browse online resources. So for those of you curious, definitions. 1. Ancient Greek history, a solemn song or chant, specifically a hymn of thanksgiving for deliverance, victory in battle, etc., addressed to Apollo, actually I didn't know this part, or occasionally another god or goddess, hence also a war song invoking such a victory, usage from 1592 to today. Definition number 2, a song of praise or thanksgiving, a shout or song of triumph, joy, or exultation. Also figurative, an expression of praise or admiration, a tribute to something. Under etymology, it says here a borrowing from Latin, but I don't think that's right. Classical Latin, Paean, hymn, usually victory addressed to Apollo or another god. Ancient Greek, Doric, song or chant, specifically a hymn of thanksgiving for deliverance, victory in battle, etc., probably one addressed to Apollo invoked under the name Yeah. Originally the Homeric name for the physician of the gods and of unknown etymology. The invocation being by the phrase Aeopian. The song or hymn came itself to be called Pian, compare Italian Piana, first half of the 14th century, Middle French, okay. Got what I needed. Pronunciation. Pian. Okay, so Erica Pian. Thunderskin's Pian. There you go. This is what you get at the System Jock channel. It also offers American pronunciation for if you would like me to localize. Alright, sea-strewn, salt-snared stuff. Now, Ava's locks are always nice because we can potentially make a Solomon's preparation out of that. I imagine we're going to be running out of uses for that, although we can always turn that into Nilican. And I'm happy to get the Hawthorn Blank, a wood favored by the Horned Axe. It does just give us one knock, but the fact that it's a material, a fuel, and wood kind of gives it... it's a little bit better than it seems as a result of that. But we're going to continue to walk on the moor. I'm assuming we don't find things like mushrooms at this time of day, but I don't want to use up Inks of Power at this point. Was another... Okay, furs and feathers will do. And I'm okay using the Tryst because I still have... Yeah, I still have an edge and a moon that I can work with. I want to be kind of careful that I don't use up all my elements, though. Once I can more comfortably make the Wormwood Dreams, I'm going to try and start going down places like the Rustling Stair. And in fact, it might not be a bad idea to do that during winter, seeing as the fishermen, I believe, give us a little moon. But let's focus on the game chips for a start. So here we have... what are they? I think they're a side dish. Yes, generally eaten as a light snack or alongside a main course. I'm just going to add some notes here. So side dish, it gives us 1 edge, 1 forge, 2 heart, and 1 knock. And I think I can afford to go ahead with the magnificent roast potatoes. I'm going to keep the Arab aside for now, but long before fish and chips, these went crunchily with game. Ideally, you'd want bread sauce and bread crumbs to complete the ensemble, but honestly, it's hard enough not to just stuff these directly into your mouth. Alright, again, we're running out of space, but... So I think I've finished my potatoes overflow. We certainly have more than enough dripping. Roast potatoes magnificently. So yeah, the hope here is that I'll be able to use the metal and the Tryst to be able to level up Edict's Martial. I still may need to use... Actually, I'm almost certainly going to need to use a couple of these elements of the soul to get the relevant memories. Better now. Alright, here we go. The White Book of Brittany, a volume of death lore gifted to St. Brendan's by Brian of Brittany, who was made Earl of Cornwall after the Norman Conquest. The white flower lies heavy, but the roots of the watchman's tree run deeper than snow. The white flower is described as the death of wisdom, but wisdom can pass into sleep, not death, when the rage of glass is subjected to sufficiently powerful winter aspect, while the ragged crossroads are invoked. So, we'll put this in the hindsight pile. I'm actually probably going to need to reshelve. Yeah. Okay. I'm wondering, I did sort of cram things. Well, no, we're okay. This will be a new free shelf. But the main focus here was to get me those Ragged Crossroads lessons. Now I'm just going to double check. Yes, Ragged Crossroads is already at level 2, so we're eventually going to turn Edict's Marshal into a level 4. Okay. So to do that, we need Edge or Moon. Now, the hindsight doesn't actually give me either. So I can get some... I can actually get both. The problem here is I'm really not willing to give up the Wormwood Dream for this. So, as a start, let's take our Whist. So the funny thing is I may not actually have enough to be able to bring everything, to bring this up to 4. Let's get a contradiction. I think Wainscot Histories will do for that. Okay, so we take the old wound, we take the... Yeah, you know what? Okay, so we'll take the old wound, and then I will use my Tryst to make another old wound. And that means I'll use the Arab for cooking, which tells me that maybe at this point I should be using the remaining elements of the soul to try and make things. Oh, actually, you know what? Let's make a Catwink so that we can bring in Aaron Peel potentially. So I will use the Whist to generate a confounding parable, or maybe an intuition. Okay, confounding parable works here. Let's do 108. This is for cooking. This is to level up, so the Tryst will be... Yeah, we're good. Oh, actually, I'm gonna need one more. I should maybe see what I get from a fisherman, because that would not be a bad idea for me to add. We also have a level 16 book coming in, so where's my cutoff? All right. With Keeper level Heart, the Paean is the precursor to Swaddled Thunder. So that basically just puts it right out there. So let's just take a minute here and think. So if I could add this core again, and we add the Thunderskins Paean, so that brings us up to 9. So from 9, I would need 6 more heart. That's tough. Okay, this gives me useful information then. So, what do I learn from this? Well, okay, we add the core, so that's 9. Then we add the storm, right? So that brings us up to 13. and then we would add something like the cheerful ditty. So really, we are waiting on a storm here, and that means that my sleep is going to be occupied. Let me just make sure I can. Yes, my dreams are going to be occupied for the foreseeable future while I resolve that, but it's worth it, in my opinion. And we still have plenty of time in winter for the Salon, so I do want to get on that sooner rather than later, simply because I don't know I don't know what kind of memories I'm going to get, and I'll probably have to scramble a little bit. But magnificent roast potatoes. It's the dripping that elevates it. Roast potatoes are a feast for the senses, but the dripping deepens the flavor profile, makes the experience continue through the machinery of the mouth to become a kind of journey. So that's another side dish for us. And we will use Edgeforge, Grail, and Heart. Noting the 2 heart here. So I think I'm just going to try roast potatoes next, assuming I can find a place for mailbox potatoes, my favorite kind. Alright, so Arab. Good old-fashioned roast potatoes, a dish with Edge, Forge, Heart, and Winter. Okay, another quartz chunk. I have a feeling I'm probably just going to throw these all out at some point, but... Another package. 108. Ava DeWolf discourses on the 5th history, and particularly on those who are said to have passed over from it, the Great Hooded Princes, the Knocklong who ascended under the Mother of Ants, but now, so Ava claims, honor the Horned Axe. The Great Hooded Princes call their library the Tomb of Lies, and this has given rise to a foolish tradition that the princes are habitual liars. Of course, in fact, truth flourishes where lies are slain. On the other hand, the princes do not say knowledge is power, but rather power is knowledge. Ava has, to her regret, never visited the library. She notes that it is said to be west of the Lion and north of Victory, and suggests that, though the princes are generally associated with India, their library might be further east. So this is going to hopefully get us our Catwink. And the Wainscot history is subtitled Stories from Behind the Walls, a miscellany of non-traditional histories, including battles not generally acknowledged in countries which appear on no map, told in a playful, apparently fictional manner. Gore does not mention the Mansis directly, but constant coy metaphorical references to ascending the staircase of years, to the doors of sleep, and to the blue light of dawn suggest he had commerce with the unseen world. It was common in that time to speak of the division of the sun, by which contemporaries understood the eruption of barbarian forces and of their uncouth gods. So, contradiction, something uncomfortable, and that is so that I can level up Edict's Marshal. So let's get on that right away. So we'll use the metal here. Our first lesson is Ragged Crossroads. Again, because Ragged Crossroads has edge, we're able to use that in this case. We will use the contradiction, and what was the other one I was going to use? The old wound, right. So I am no expert, but I'm no dabbler either. Moving on, we want to make a ink. So Edict's Inviolable, we add the Confounding Parable. Apparently I've gone mad. I don't even need to worry about the... Oh, of course, yeah. Alright, Oriflammes thanks you for your custom. So here we're going to add this to the pile. Again, no hope of reading that anytime soon, but that's not the point. So why did I bring this Trist? I think I brought the Trist in thinking that I could maybe try another level up for Edict's Marshal. No, I did that so that I could get a... I did that so that I could get the the old wound back. So I'm going to bring back the wisp because we should have enough to be able to earn a little more money. I mean, again, we've got the £1 note, so it's not like I'm short on cash. But this gives me options down the road, especially when I want to sort of refill the pantry. I guess I could maybe move some of the... No room for the pheasant. The skill is now level 3, its power aspects have also increased. Edicts Martial, the precepts of struggle and conflict which drive the cosmic engine of change, sometimes called the Chorality. Now, I think in this case I just add the Tryst and we're good to go. Yep. So I'll do a little bit of organizing while... Thipsty, what do you mean by early beta? Is this like a testing? This is exactly that, Thipsty. So if you're interested in House of Light, this is what I'm playing. The only catch here, the reason why I'm putting the early beta sign up is that Weather Factory were quite clear that in order to stream this, I needed to sort of put a watermark or something prominent on it. Essentially, it's just because this is not fully implemented yet. So this is testing, although I've been a very poor tester, it feels like. Again, not deliberately, you know, I'm doing my best, but I play the game quite slowly. And so in this case here, we are playing the House of Light expansion in development. And whenever I run into something that doesn't quite make sense or something that I need to work on, I just write down a note and send off the email. But if you have any questions about the new features, we do have some of the new material. So we've got a Tree of Wisdoms. We've completed the Lytirian event, and we took that to a completion with Father Stanislav John Schaller. We're actually looking to end the Friar's Tapestry. In fact, if you can give me a second here. I'm gonna just write a quick email. Sorry, I just want to make sure that I've got an image of this ready to go for a ticket that I'll submit. Okay. Sorry about that. But yeah, so what we've got here, we're going to get ready to do Salon. I don't have all the elements of the soul, which will possibly become relevant there, but we have been doing some cooking. So we've got the game chips, the magnificent roast potatoes, some ham in reserve. What I've tried to do is I've tried to fill the rooms with some of the different dishes. So it takes a little bit for me to run around and show all the goodies. Actually, it just occurred to me, I don't think we have a side dish in this room. Yeah, we have a first course, but no side dish. So let's take the game chips. Put that up there. King's Luck Pie, as referred to by... I'm assuming that you're familiar with the game. So, Servants' Hall. Hendrik de Wolf, first Baron Brandkrug, was granted Hush House after the dissolution of St. Brendan's by Old Coppernose, King Henry VIII. In an act of unusual generosity for that tight-fisted king, the grant came with the Oh, sorry. This is the wrong room, by the way. I'll read it anyway. Sequent regale, like a king, the quasi-independence traditionally accorded to marcher lords. Hendrik was clearly determined to live as befitted his new rank, and he expanded the house accordingly to support sufficient staff. The text I was looking for was in the kitchen. King's Luck Pie, a beef pie with pears and cinnamon and secret ingredients, is the traditional dish of the house. It was first cooked, they say, for King Henry when, in great secrecy on St. Piran's Day, he came to Cornwall seeking the king's metal, tin, to restore his alloy. It probably didn't happen, but the pie did. And of course, we have it here. It's actually quite a good dish. And then a thing we were working towards is the successor to the Curia. The Curia of the Isle is long gone. Once it helped preserve a little knowledge and a kind of safety here in Brandkrug and establish the position of librarian. Rowena, secretary persistent to the Curia, is a complex entity who has long protected the house, is both exhausted and compromised, and so it is time for the librarian to return the favor and establish a successor to the Curia. Help visitors pursue their goals and develop their agendas. When you've found 6 suitable candidates inspired by agendas, you can suggest that they found an organization that's a worthy successor to the Curia of the Isle. So this is one of the big goals. So there are 5 positions, and then you add your journal in here. So we have the treasurer. The treasurer would be responsible for the Institute's finances. This would be a good excuse to ask for an additional endowment, so they should be wealthy. So they have to have the inspired trait, but you have got, in order to found the Lighthouse Institute, you have the options among treasurers, Fraser, Emirajibi, and Damer. For Secretary Salvant, Peter Igdistis, Eason Fekri, or Stanislav John Schaller. The Secretary Vigilant would be Lalakaima, Azita Bukhara, or Lieutenant Arthur Moore. Secretary Enigmatic would be Serena Blackwood, Corso Reverte, or Yvette Southey. Madame Bichet, Dr. Ibn Aladim, or Zachary Wakefield as the Secretary Nunciant. So the Secretary Salvant would lead the Institute's healing and restoration efforts. The Secretary Vigilant would ensure the Institute's safety. The Secretary Enigmatic would conceal or reveal the Institute's secrets, and the Secretary Nunciant would communicate and negotiate with other organizations. So every first encounter are going to be visitors to the library, but they have added the writing case, a sturdy brass-cornered writing case, which has been of service to at least 3 librarians of the house. And as it describes here, use your writing case and a desk with an ink to invite visitors to a salon. To invite visitors, add your writing case as a discussion subject when you visit them in Brandkrug. So in this case here, out of the people that have visited, we've got Eason's address, Douglas Moore, Peter Igdistis, Father Stanislav John Schaller, Serena Blackwood, Lalakaima, Arthur Moore, Zachary Wakefield, Dr. Aaron Peel, Yvette Southey, Connie Lee, Fraser Strathcoyne, Azita Bukhara, and Dr. Ibn Aladim. This is clearly not everyone's. The only people that you can't add to your writing case are the visitors during Numa. So you couldn't add like Julian Cosley to your address. But essentially, once you satisfy a guest's wishes, you gain the option of bringing them in. So for instance, let's say I wanted to bring in Fraser Strathcoyne. Actually, no, I should be able to do this. So let's add Horns and Ivories. In this case, I need to add an ink. So in this case, we can use Peribiot. And as you can see here, request Strathcoyne's presence. We wouldn't be able to add Peter Igdistis because we don't have sufficient Sky. But if I were to add Sky Stories, now we have the option of adding him. So the other thing that's nice is that these invitations are not just for salons. So if you want to, this is a big dilemma that I've had. If you have an existing save and you get House of Light, you will be able to, so all the decisions that you made will be there already recorded. So for instance, in this case, I believe Aaron Peel, Connie Lee, and Stanislav John Schaller are all people that I helped with the Friars Tapestry event. And so you don't need to start over. Like, it'll kind of keep your progress. I don't think they'll be in your writing case. You're going to need to add them to your writing case manually. But as people visit, you'll be able to bring them in. But basically, one of the challenges that I run into is I didn't realize how rare Hyksos was in my YouTube playthrough. And so I've been waiting for a really long time for someone who has Hyksos. Now, because it does actually matter if you help someone in the library or not, what you can do is, if it's somebody you want to help and they also have a language that you want. So for instance, let's say it's Corso, who I believe gives you Hyksos. You can, but you do want to help them. Maybe you want to have them as a member of the Lighthouse Institute. You can help them. They'll give you their calling card, and then you add that to the writing case, and then you can invite them back for the tutoring, or you can invite them, for a salon or something like that. So it's something that helps in terms of being able to get some of the things that you need and not feeling like you're missing out in terms of the events. Okay, roast potatoes. You really need rosemary for roast potatoes, but fortunately the kitchen garden at Hush House has never been short of rosemary. So I am keeping an Excel file to write these notes down. So I believe this is the last potato dish that I have, so still a side dish. It gives us 1 edge, 1 forge, 2 heart, and 1 winter. Okay. So we're actually, this is nice that I'm doing this. So I've got some cakes here. So in terms of my to-do list, so we've got the blackberry jam sponge cake, the Cornish honey cake, the knot cake, and the Madeira cake. Oh, sorry, and rosehip jam sponge cake. Fudge and sticky topping pudding. So actually, I think if I'm going to be... I think I can make more creamed sugar if I'm not mistaken. Let me just consult the list again. Yeah, so it's just sugar and butter to make creamed sugar. So I should make a second one so I can make the sticky toffee pudding. The one thing that I'm missing here are the egg recipes, and there's quite a few of those. But we'll see what we have. I probably need to do another shopping trip at some point, but let's use up what we have, seeing as we are at the end of the day and I'm going to be focusing on hosting the salon. Yeah, well, it's also tricky. So I believe the original conception of the game was that, and I really do believe this in terms of the way that some of the mechanics work, particularly in the original game, was that this was a game that was really intended to be maybe only 1 or 2 journeys through the house, and you would have a very unique playthrough that was, special to you, so you wouldn't read all of the books. And I believe one of the original intentions in the design was that people wouldn't necessarily learn every skill. Now, the tricky part for me is that I don't know how you would know what ingredients you can make without learning the skills. So that's a difference between what I think the belief of how the game would have worked versus how people play it. That's one gap sort of between what I thought the intention might have been and the the realization, let's say. But I know, so the original game, I don't know how long you've been playing this, but like basically the original version of the game, if you committed a history, it would delete all of your previous saves for that run. So basically you'd have your one run, you'd maybe play the Twiceborn and you'd achieve your ending. And if you wanted to get a different ending, you would do so through playing the game from the beginning again. And I think a lot of people were bothered by the fact that, they're not able to sort of be a completionist in terms of all of the endings or all of the saves. And like, to me, I don't necessarily think it's the most rewarding experience to sort of reload to get all of them. But obviously, like, I'm not, this game wasn't custom designed for me, right? I sometimes misunderstand what people are wanting as well. So, when I think about the game potentially being something that was, your own unique journey through Hush House, and what the way you would learn about other things inside the game would be other people talking about what they ran into. it sort of makes sense to me that maybe you wouldn't have all of the languages, and maybe you'd sell those books, or you'd just leave them aside and you'd sort of pursue your ending because that was more interesting to you. But of course, for someone like me who does want to read as many of the books as possible and to make specific decisions in terms of histories that are committed and such, it can be a bit of a drag to have to wait so long to be able to to get that one language, especially because I didn't realize how rare Hyksos was. Move gingerly while the pain lasts. So I am grateful. Again, I did feel people were a little unfair about the events. I think there is something to be said about this game where you are sort of the sole tender of this Library of the Watchman's Tree, and that you are going to have only sort of intermittent contact with the outside world. And I like this idea that you're only kind of given a glimpse on a wider world out there. And I think people, like I said, I think people were a little unfair with the idea that there wasn't as much follow-up, right? Like you didn't get a postcard from someone at the end saying, hey, the crown growth is loose, or something like that. But obviously that was feedback that Weather Factory got, and so they've added a bit more closure to the events, and it's a way that you can sort of give people inspiration to make them join the Institute or possibly go down a different path. So, for instance, Schaller, we've pursued one particular path, and he wound up developing the trait that he is fearful of the Carapace Cross now. So a bit of a shame to see the Savage Hymn go, but you can only keep one memory. So first priority for today is going to be leveling up the Ragged Crossroads. I guess it depends what the weather is before we make any further steps. But let's, I think I'm going to make the sticky toffee pudding. So, cake batter. Wait, not the cake batter, cream sugar. We will add, the health is the safest option here, so sticky toffee pudding, a dish with grail and heart. Unlikely to be something that we, I'll also see if the spices do anything. Actually, it looks like we're getting pretty close to, so I'd imagine 1, 2, 3 recipes. So far as spices and savors are concerned, I wouldn't be surprised if it was just 3 more recipes that we need. But yeah, in this case, we'll make the sticky toffee pudding. We'll see what the weather brings, and then we'll make some decisions in terms of how I use my elements of the soul. Okay, the foggy day's a little unexpected, but let's see what we can do with this. So I've carried a memory like a flambeau safe through the mazes of night. This will complete once dawn has come. So either a high-level knock recipe would be ideal. Maybe even I just examine some of the things. Traveling at night, this is an easy one for us to read. Yeah, so it's not exactly like... Well, actually, the way I should be thinking about this is I've got horns and ivories, so I automatically get an 8 knock. 14's a bit much, though. I don't think I'm going to be able to wrestle out another 6. Well, especially with the manual for departure. If I had Vac... Okay, so maybe we'll take a quick look at what we can do with Moon. Hill and Hollow we already have. I think we already have that at level 2, actually. No, we don't. Okay. All right, let's make some decisions here. So we've got the Codex Cephali gives me snow stories. Again, we've got snow stories at a higher level, and I believe we've already committed that to. Okay, so that actually frees us up for some things. So I could use, for instance, the Edicts Martial in this case. I like where this is going. Okay, so we read the Codex Cephali. We are already 4, so Edicts Martial can go up to 6. I'd feel a little more comfortable with 5, but I don't hate where we're going here. So let's just think. In fact, let's get even bolder. What's the most moony text that I can read right now? Actually, hang on a minute. So if we have the sweet bones, and we hire a... Oh, what am I doing? If we hire a fisherman... Okay, so they get 2 moon. Yes, this is how I should be thinking. So I'm going to take a minute here to write this out. Okay, so fisherman starts with 2. The tryst will give them 1. The tool will give them 1. Weather gives them 3, so that's 2, 3, 4, 7. So I think our smallest moon would be... I thought it was 11, turns out it's 10. Okay, so we've got a fisherman. We give them the tryst, we give them the tool, we give them the weather. Then we would need to find 3 in terms of food and drink. So the Armagnac D's is a pretty easy choice there. So that brings us up to 9. Oh, sorry, I need 4, not 3. What am I saying? So then the question comes down to, can I find a 2 moon food? And I think that's pilchards or mackerel, isn't it? Yes. Okay, so we are not going for lessons. We're getting ourselves a new room. And we'll maybe get some memories from talking with the fishermen, but that's not the priority right now. All right, in winter when the storms close the seas, the fishermen will offer their services for $1 a day. Fishermen will offer moon and little sky, alternatively add a soul card and to find guests who might be seeking employment. Rarer guests who might be seeking employment. Nothing to do with the winter today, so we can use our whist here, and I figure it wouldn't hurt to throw the tryst and the fet at the expert. How do I organize my completed books? For this playthrough and my YouTube playthrough, I normally organize them by the lesson that they give me, and that's just to save me the trouble of looking them up. So I used to keep a big spreadsheet with everything. The very first playthrough I did as the Twiceborn, I actually had sort of subjects. So this room would sort of have the DeWolfs. I think I had sort of like a history or histories section. I think my the Abbey and the Curia periods were here, so I thematically organized them so that I could sort of get a bit of a chronological narrative by reading certain groups. But this time around, especially with the labels, I just have an intuitions shelf, a gossip shelf. It's a very straightforward way to get certain memories. Okay, let's leave aside. So I've got the core, the Arab, the health. Okay, so this Holy Trinity is going to make me things. Let's say the metal is going to level up the Edicts Martial. But I do need 3 memories which have either edge or moon. Now the good news here is that I can actually use all the whist. Yeah, so I've got Faust and whist that can use that. So we'll use my filing system right away. So we've got it is written, which will give us a confounding parable. We'll use Ava's desk with the whist. And this we can use with the intuition. So the Orchid Transfiguration's a feast. And then we'll use the lantern aspect in the reading room. And for this we'll read a favorite of mine, those indignities perpetrated by the deceitful fraternity of obliviates. So this will be combined with Edict's Martial to level up the memory that we need. We'll have Trist and Fet left over to sort of harvest things. And I suppose I can start crafting invitations. Maybe I'll use the whist to make an extra ink or something like that. But let's start inviting people, or not inviting people, but preparing the invitations. So we'll save Aaron Peel for later. But this may be a little tricky. I need to find sufficient moon. Yeah, I apparently chose the one combination. Actually, the nectar's going to be kind of tricky too. But this is good for Schaller, so I have enough here to craft a letter inviting Father Stanislav to Brandkrug. So I should be able to handle Stanislav, Wakefield, and Connie when all is said and done. All right. Fishermen's assistants. Fishermen in this part of the world have a reputation as smugglers and worse than smugglers. Those days are past, mostly, and mostly they just catch pilchards now, but they still remember the words spoken in silence to the moon and the sea. All right, let's talk about the weather, more useful than one might expect, especially in Britain. I'll set aside this tryst to talk with the fishermen as well. Okay, there's our invitation. I'm just going to tuck this away here. So the next one, let's try with some moon. I think I've used up all the moon desks, though. Like, I don't think Westcott's desk has moon. All right, well, let's stand on ceremony. Quenchings and Quellings gives me more than enough winter for Wakefield. Request Zachary's presence. I have enough here to craft a letter inviting Zachary to Brandkrug. Moving on. Still cooking, so I'll leave that aside. Oh. Let's make money at Sweet Bones. Help with letters. I could offer help with correspondence and arithmetic. There's no school in Brandkrug, and not everyone here knows their letters. I'm also starting to lose the season, so we do want to get on these invitations sooner rather than later. Okay, so it was Schaller, Wakefield, Aaron Peel was going to be the tricky one, and then it was Connie Lee. So surely with the Watchman's Paradoxes. Nope. Sky Stories? But then I need a Rose Desk. But Rose Desk would be Vagabond. Yeah. Moon, you fool. Okay, so actually Tridesma Hyra would have been perfect for... Oh yeah, no. Well, then we just do that at... I don't know why I thought I needed the Catwink for Connie Lee. I think I just wasn't thinking. And I'll just double check. Again, we're assuming that I'm going to use the... I mean, I wouldn't say no to the refectory. But in terms of slots, so Mr. Kill here, Connie, Wakefield, Schaller, and Peel. And then we don't have a secretary persistence, so... Okay, I may want to restore a tryst before the end of the day, but... Let's take advantage of the weather while it lasts. Alright, now we're going to talk with you about tryst. Secret sorrows may join our strengths. Both moth and moon. Toffee pudding. All right, let me just take a second here. So, shockingly, this is a pudding. Is the food cooking new content? It is indeed. So, in addition to the fact that these probably can help you level up your visitor or your assistants faster, these will be used as part of the salon, and I'm pretty sure we can get this. I'm pretty sure we can get this done before the end of the stream. We'll be close, but I think we can manage it. Toffee pudding, decadent in summer, comforting in winter. So probably not something we'll serve tonight, just because, or something we probably won't serve because I don't think this matches the guests that I'm bringing in. But you never know. But yeah, so there's a basic idea in terms of how cooking works in this game. So you'll use an element of the soul, and in this case I only have the servant's kitchen range, so I need scale, heart, nectar, and grail, which in practical terms means core, Arab, or health. As when I open up the jail kitchen, that will mean that I can use lantern, so that frees up Faust and Whist. But basically until you start, and then of course in the dawn period, the kitchen there, I'm trying to remember if that gives you every element of the soul. At the very least, it'll give you quite a few of the elements of the soul as available for cooking. But essentially the way that it works here, you have to have an element of the soul. So for instance, in this case, I could use the Arab. And a lot of this really depends on the combination of ingredients and kitchenware. So here you have kitchenware or knives. You can add up to 2 ingredients, and then one specific skill that you can use with cooking is spicing. Tool or knowledge that might be used to add more exotic savors. So essentially taking anything with an ingredient will usually give you a hint, but not always. So moly was in the base game, although you'll notice it does have cooking ingredient. This will be part of something greater. When you have House of Light, cooking ingredients can be used for cooking and making food in the kitchen. So what I've been sort of following for the last little while is just a set of, it's kind of just a set of a table that I've made for myself of recipes that I've discovered but haven't tried yet. So for instance, here I'd like to try and make creamed sugar again. So we'll add that, and I think I just needed butter. Oh, and kitchen bowls, of course. Mixed creamed sugar, an ingredient for a higher purpose. So this one isn't as exciting because this is a sort of an intermediate step to making a dish, but 60 seconds and we'll finish creating something. We threw this overboard. Okay, box of rarities. I may not be able to open that up today, but we'll see. I have a few other priorities, like getting the Edicts Martial up first, so... And we're almost done reading. So, Grail Satisfaction. The Orchid Transfigurations, A Feast, a compilation of quasi-Rosicrucian allegories, supposedly by Robert Flood. This is in the original Latin. The illustrations are certainly striking. They flush the skin and glow beneath the eyelids after the book is closed. We must devour to be devoured. We cannot be undevoured, as we cannot be unborn. So, and we get an intuition from that. You just know, you know? Here we have read, "It is written, Musgrave, fourth of the De Wolf line, writes tentatively about the covenant of Brandkrug and the legacy of the sacred inks he calls in casta potentialia. As the light passeth through a prism into many colors, so the great inks separateth into lesser inks, and lesser inks into inks minor. Musgrave coyly refuses to talk of the great inks, or else refuses to admit he doesn't know much about them. He insists that Ugol and Stargol, which can be mixed with sufficient nectar or sky aspect, are sufficient for most befitting purposes." And here we got a confounding parable. The moth, the grail, and the egg unhatching all tell different stories of the world's beginning. One of these stories is the oldest, but it may not be the first. And finally, the legendary, those indignities perpetrated by the deceitful fraternity of Obliviates. It is not clear whether CROD, who is identified only by his initials, was in fact an initiate of the Obliviate Order of Immortal Adepts. He wrote in the 16th century, after the order, if he is to be believed, had passed the height of its power. 58. That they did claim inheritance from the traditions of the House of Leith, but that they have disregarded both its most sacred and most beautiful ceremonies where they are not found convenient. 59. 71. The Glassfinger toxin is no mere assassin's convenient for the Oblividiots to confine to the disposal of their enemies. It has higher uses. Certainly it is a great matter of winter, but I have already outlined the technique by which it may be fitted for its ultimate destiny. Contradiction. Something uncomfortable. And we'll use Ragged Crossroads here. Another fruit plucked from knowledge's tree. Improve the skill to level 4. What comes, neither of us knows yet, but we will. Okay, so as far as the fisherman's concerned, we've used collaboration, we've used a memory, and we can use a tool, but then we are going to have to start using the food. So I can lend my assistant something to help, increasing their abilities. This wasn't a major priority to open up, but I'm happy that I have it. So, an afternoon spent profitably reading newspapers to the curious, writing affectionate letters for the lonely, steering farmers through the requirements of the Ministry of Agriculture. Let's bring this back. Unexpected finds in the folds of earth and sky. Now I think I'm willing to use the fet here, but I'm probably going to focus on cooking with the core and the health. So, another hawthorn blank into the pile. Sand. An hourglass, of course, is sand contained by sand. And the skill is now level 4. So the precepts of struggle and conflict which drive the cosmic engine of change, sometimes called the core of Alec. Excuse me. Alright. So, it seems to me like we should be able to bring in Dr. Peel. Ava's desk gives me Moon. Yeah. So I don't need to give up any elements of the soul to be able to do that. Oh, I guess we didn't try to bring Dr. Peel in. Alright, request Peel's presence. I have enough here to craft a letter inviting Peel to Brandkrug. Now, I'm not going to invite them... today. I have the option of doing so, but we're kind of far into the day already. So... the real question is, what do I want to do with my remaining... So, I think cooking for sure with these. The question, though, is what do I want to do with the fet and the tryst, which can't be used for cooking? Can't see why it would hurt to do another trip out on the moor. Sure, we'll also go to Coke Cross Sands. I'm actually kind of running out of ideas in terms of what to do right now, so... Alright, so... I'm going to use the mackerel instead of the pilchards. Offer something to eat. I can offer my assistant something to eat. This will also increase their aspects. It's also just friendly. Now I just need to post it. Now I did forget to say the addresses for these people. So we've got Father Stanislav's address, Prieur de Capitaine Moriband. We've got Zachary. One is instructed to write the letter literally. House, street, town, shire, country. Peel's address, Cardia House, Kanya, Crete. Connie's address, Hotel Storken, Zurich. Who did I forget? We did Peel. We did Connie. Zachary. No, we've covered all of them. And then Mr. Kill already lives in Brankwood. So I think what I'll do, I'll probably host a salon in the evening. And what I'll do is I will... An ingredient for a higher purpose. What I'll do here is... I'll try and do things during the day, but basically I'll restore an element of the soul when I use up when I use something, basically. Okay, so let's do fudge. A precursor to sticky toffee pudding with bread and to fudge without bread, both notorious as founding crimes of 20th century culinary debauchery. Okay. Finally, we give him a drink. Armagnac can only come from Gascony, but if you believe Monsieur Corentin, his vineyard began with vine cuttings from yeas beyond the sea. And I suppose at this point I don't really need to worry about any more memories because I'm going to bring the Thunderskins Peon over. I'll still keep cycling the whist just so that I can recover. In terms of money, I can potentially order some new ingredients. But I think... Yeah, tomorrow we're going to post all these off. We'll invite... We'll invite Mr. Kill, and then we'll see how... Okay. This is good to know that I can also open up the Rustling Stair in future. Actually, I should probably open this one just because I have the 11. So, serpent scales whisper on stone, serpent eyes glitter in the pale window light. So next time I don't need to use... Well, mackerel is actually pretty easy to get, but I was thinking we could maybe just use an Eigengrau or something. We have enough time to do cooking for the next day, so here we go. Fudge, all the bad things... Sorry, all the bad things doing a good thing. Alright, sorry, gonna take a minute to write this in. That is a 3 grail ingredient. All right. I'm still trying to think what I want to experiment with. So I only have 1 cake batter, and that's going to require an egg. I think a meringue... oh, hell, how do I make a meringue again? Right, egg, sugar in a bowl, so I need a lot of eggs. I think what I'll do here is I'll make the blackberry jam sponge cake. Because I can make blackberry jam. Actually, you know what? Let's make the blackberry jam first. I think I need sugar for that too. Oh, actually, we're running out of sugar. Okay. Maybe what I can do is start moving ingredients around. This game involves a lot of talking to chickens. Sorry, this game does involve a lot of chickens. Yes, and I'm short on elements of the soul, so it's a little less convenient than in other circumstances, but that's fine. We'll keep Terrence and Tuppence company. I'm not likely to do that before the Salon, though, just because that's going to use up my elements of the soul, and I need the elements of the soul for the conversation. So I think what I might do here, I'll restore the whist, and then I'll open up the box of rarities. Okay. Again, I didn't bother talking with the fishermen to the end of the day, just because we are already going to keep the Song of Joyous Sacrifice. Now, of course, with my luck, it's going to be a storm when we want to invite everyone, but... Hidden Stair. After Brulot's retirement in 1861, the Curia found itself short of promising candidates until the arrival of Willem Harries, a former Dutch Lutheran priest and sometimes correspondent of Stanislav Schaller. He had been a missionary in the Dutch East Indies until his faith was lost or transmuted into a devotion to St. Agnes of the Gate, and he was drawn to Hush House. He won his position by presenting the Curia with a key long lost. That was the key to this very stair, but only the naive would assume that the key was a tangible object. So the Riddling Stair is a 10 Grail or 10 Moth challenge. Blackberry Jam, plucked from hedgerows, a treat with Grail, Heart, Nectar, and Rose. This is basically a replacement jam that I'm making. And we will finally make our first cake. I think we need spicing. Make a blackberry jam sponge cake, a dish with Grail, Heart, Nectar, and Rose. So I kind of need to watch my timing on these invitations, but we should be in a good spot. Better now. Okay, so we're not going to use that to make money. We will use that to investigate the box of rarities. Tiny treasure of forgotten things. Perhaps there's a real rarity in here somewhere. And I think halfway through the night we will send out the invitations, because I believe it takes a minute. Well, we don't need to be that early with it, but I definitely want a lot of time just in case I need to make something special for the guests. Night has fallen, dawn will come soon, so we do want to make sure that we keep Thunderskins peeing. All right, the blackberry sponge cake. Light, sweet sponge cake, and the taste of autumn hedgerows. 2 grail, 2 heart, 1 nectar, 1 rose. And it is a pudding. So, 2 hearts, 2 grail, 1 nectar, 1 rose. And I'd love to try some of these other things, but I'm going to... be patient and see where the day goes. Yes, this was added a little bit later, but basically, as long as you... So you can't dream on... you can't dream on weather. And it has to match the type in the... So it's like the memory slot. So any bed will have 4 that you can work with. And I've had many a night where I don't have the right bed, and I wish I did. But yeah, you want to plan accordingly if you want to use that a lot. In this case, this is perfect for me because if I get a storm, then I'm going to be able to make the Swaddled Thunder, which basically gives me an infinite supply of storms. But unfortunately, only the storm is going to give me that, so I need to be patient. I think we'll be fine with the invitations. Actually, you know what? Yeah, now is the time. So we'll start with Schaller. Stamp, envelope, send. Postmistress examines the letter and deems it sufficient. It'll go with the next post, she assures me. Memories fade, assistance departs, but the soul is refreshed. We can invite Mr. Kill right away. Oh, hang on. We're not inviting him with Whist. We're inviting him with the book. No, hang on. We do need to talk to... The Kills put the kettle on when they see you coming down the street. Mr. Kill always enjoys a chance to catch up with me. Invite the Kills up to Hush House. Oh, that's interesting. So it looks like we're getting both Mr. and Mrs. Kill. But there's only going to be room for one. All right, and finally... Oop. Dr. Peel. So, did Father Stanislav receive my invitation? I've carried a memory like a flambeau safe through the mazes of night. This will complete once dawn has come. So again, I'm not opposed to using my elements of the soul today, but I do need to make sure that I have them restored before we begin the Salon. Snow! Alright, so... this is inconvenient because I was actually going to use Mr. Kill in the Salon, and I believe... well, actually, I'm going to see what happens. Mr. Kill is clearly excited and remains courteous. Mrs. Kill is courteous and may be excited. As ever, it's difficult to tell. The Kills have sent a gift ahead. In Brandkrug, they take marrows seriously. This is a marrow redolent of sorrow. I think I already have one of these. Yes, but there was a bright marrow that I had. Alright, the Kills visiting. The Kills in their Sunday best. The Kills are pleasant company, but are not as erudite as some other visitors, and maybe slightly less productive of lessons. Okay, well that's good to know, but I'm still gonna... I mean, it would be unkind not to invite them at this point. So, we're going to get some rest and refreshment. Oh, I could have used the tuppence. Alright. Speak with Mr. Kill. Mr. Kill always enjoys a chance to catch up with me. If you don't choose a topic, Mr. Kill will offer help as a friend. What the hell was I thinking? I may still be able to make this work, but man, did I just make my life difficult. So priority number 1 is going to be Mr. Kill. Alright, Mr. Kill can always spare a few hours to help a friend. So let's talk about the weather for a start. Talk about the weather, more useful than one might expect, especially in Britain. I think as a precaution here, I will... Oh, I should also be making... I should still be making stuff. Or... There we go. I'm gonna leave the... I'm actually going to leave the cooking until I have my guests. Okay. I am going to need a moon memory. So I'll use the whist for that. And we can use the moon's egg. It's got lots of elements of the soul to restore, it looks like. All right, did Father Stanislav receive my invitation? So, again, we've already sort of talked with him and we've got what we needed. But in this case, he's now inspired. Fear Carapace. This one knows that the Carapace might consume humanity or alter it beyond recognition. And Agenda Stone Consumed. This one would burn or shatter what remains of the gods from stone to fuel their own purposes. Now, Schaller takes heart, food, and drink. Let me make sure I've made a note of that. I believe I already did. Yes. Everybody's kind of going to be coming at once, so I'll just take the notes as they come in. Give him the whist. So we'll watch for what lies ahead. Boosts Winter and Lantern. Okay, Zachary Wakefield. Marksman, detective, renegade. He has always been a quiet man, but since he left the Suppression Bureau, he has grown even quieter and terribly still, except for his fingers and for his eyes. So he prefers winter food and drink. Oops. I am curious here. So if I talk with Stanislav, what happened at Gladwin Lake? Ask Stanislav, what has come of the business at Gladwin Lake? Stanislav looked into it for the Green Sages. Now I can't remember if I hit continue here if I'm going to progress, so I'm going to wait until all the other guests are in. Speaking of, Connie has risen swiftly in the Suppression Bureau to the exalted rank of Constable Oculate Minor. Don't get in her way. She takes Sky food and drink. What on earth is a Sky... Oh, Lapsang Suchong. Okay. Just come of the business at Gladwin Lake. Connie tried to deal with the consequences. Dr. Aaron Peel, exile, riddlemonger, thunderskin devotee, I'd rather say confidant. Impeccably dressed, but always in dark clothing so the stains don't show. Dark the dressings, too, at his ankles and his wrists. I won't take a seat. It's kind of you to offer. It would be unkind of me to accept. So Peel likes... Moon. Okay, so I think I'm going to focus on the we'll have it in this room. So we need moon, sky. I'm actually just going to write this here. So Connie needs sky, Peel needs moon. Schaller needs heart, and Wakefield wants winter. So I'm thinking Eigengrau for Aaron Peel and Zachary Wakefield. That's a pretty straightforward one. That's also inexpensive for me to produce. I'll actually just write these down. So... Lapsang T, Eigengrau, for the heart, I guess the Isle water or the drinking cocoa would work. Okay. And we need to make sure that we have one of each dish available. So steamed vegetable, spring vegetable pie. So that'll cover me for the heart. The other thing that I may want to think about is like what's easy to make again. Cold pheasant with grape salad is actually a good first course because that will take care of Connie. And in fact, let's just pour the tea here. Serve appropriately. Pour out. So Connie's taken care of. For a main course, what are my options here? We've got roast beef, which is good for heart. We've got vegetable stew, which is also good for heart. I guess the real question here is, what are my moon options? Jugged pheasant has its appeal. Yeah, so we're actually short on moon. Ah, no, the Stargazy Pie. So that's the main course. Nuts. Oh, and the baked pear meringue actually also covers me for the winter. Okay, so the moon's taken care of, the winter's taken care of. I guess it's just the heart. So it was the side dish. Potatoes ought to do the trick here. Also good for heart and winter, so we'll use the roast potatoes in this case. I'm not gonna lie, I actually really do like fussing over the Salon. Alright, so we're gonna add 2 Eigengrau. These are gonna be a pain to fit in the room. We can pour the drinking cocoa. Serve appropriately. Pour out. Poured out. All right. My table runneth over. I think if I want to add the kills, I may actually have to add one more item and one more drink. Oh, that's a hard target. Still, it's exciting, right? We've got a room full of stuff. So I actually think we should be able to get a read on this now. So if we add the kills, Schaller, Wakefield, Lee. Make sure there's one thing in the room for every visitor to drink. Okay. So I'll take a water. Actually, I had a water by my bed. And presumably it's going to say that the food is short next. Yeah, one thing in the room for every visitor to eat. I mean, it's our choice, really. I think maybe the jumble would be a good idea, because that's relatively easy to make. All right. And we don't have a secretary persistent. All right, I'm really looking forward to this. But like I said, we're going to do this in the evening. So Let's now pursue the Friar's Tapestry. So, our options. Father Stanislav. What has come of the business at Gladwin Lake? Stanislav looked into it for the Green Sages. Zachary Wakefield. Extra. What has become of the business at Gladwin Lake? Connie tried to deal with the consequences. And Dr. Aaron Peel. What became of the business at Gladwin Lake? Aaron went to watch. Okay, I'm going to say Connie for a start. I'm hoping that we get to see a little bit more. The business at Gladwin Lake was the work of the Ostorium, a noble institution that preserves what would not otherwise be preserved, or a creepy pack of Peruvian fungus wizards, depending on preference. Intentionally or not, this has brought the Ostorium and the Suppression Bureau into a new alliance, to the great unhappiness of Connie Lee. Ask Connie, what has become of the business at Gladwin Lake? Connie tried to deal with the consequences. It went off much less messily than I expected, but now the ritual's celebrant is the Ostorium's emissary to the Bureau. I'm really worried, Librarian. If the Ostorium is too close to the crown growth, and now the Bureau is making arrangements with the Ostorium. We need allies. The world is changing, but this is too much. It could be what happened... Oop. Oh, go to hell. Sorry, my snipping tool's being a pain. Okay. Now, I think I don't need to continue here, so if I close out... Oh, no, looks like... yeah, it looks like we're pursuing with Connie. So this is one thing I'm not 100% clear on. Let Connie make up her own mind. The librarian probably shouldn't get involved with the inner workings of the Suppression Bureau. But yeah, so far as I can tell, we don't have the option of seeing what happens with the rest of these, so... Okay, the business at Gladwin Lake was the work of the Ostorium. And sorry, let me read the entry again. So the business at Gladwin Lake was the work of the Ostorium, a noble institution that preserves what would not otherwise be preserved, or a creepy pack of Peruvian fungus wizards, depending on preference. Intentionally or not, this has brought the Ostorium and the Suppression Bureau into a new alliance, to the great unhappiness of Connie Lee. What has come of the business at Gladwin Lake? Connie tried to deal with the consequences. It went off much less messily than I expected, but now the ritual celebrant is the Ostorium's emissary to the Bureau. I'm really worried, Librarian. The Ostorium is too close to the crown growth, and now the Bureau is making arrangements with the Ostorium. We need allies. The world is changing, but this is too much. It could be what happened in Artuccio all over again, but worse. I'm thinking about resigning. There are always compromises at this level, but this is a new kind of compromise. On the other hand, if I stay, I can make a difference. If I leave, I give up that power. Librarian, if you have something on the Bureau's history, achievements, triumphs, mistake, some books will convince Connie to stay, others will convince her to leave the Bureau and, indeed, the game. Interesting. Man. This is a really interesting one because obviously I need to... So when I think about the types of books that would be related to the... I mean, there's the Artuccio incident where there's a brief mention in the Peruvian diaries, but I don't really think that counts. What are some of the other ones that I had for... so there's the Glimmerings, the anonymous prison diary written by a dreamer convicted of oniric irresponsibility and confined to the Kukurbit. We have... I don't think we have the book with Kukurbit prisoner records, accounts by Governor Collar's private secretary of interventions and experiments in the last years of the Kukurbit prison, focusing particularly on prisoners he believes might have Carapace cross lineage. Yeah, I guess the thing here is I'm not sure. I guess one other thing I could try would be... This is so odd that you can put a memory in here. Yeah, interesting. So, you really don't get any guidance in terms of what the consequence is going to be. That's interesting. But that is something for me to deal with later. I know I'm at the 3-hour mark, but let's get this salon done. Okay, we'll put the pie in the garden then. Did I even get the... Yeah, so we're waiting for evening now. Sorry, I'm all over the map. Okay. Let's think about how the rest of the day goes. So, I think we're good. I have a little bit of work to do in terms of moving these things up. But yeah, we'll restore the elements of the soul that are required, and we will try... If I can, I'd love to get the... I'd love to get the fisherman opening up a room as well. But again, we'll see where everything goes. My assistant and I will be prudent. All right. So we've got the memory. We've got the whist. We'll now use Solomon's preparation, so that brings them up to 11. I can offer my assistant something to drink. This will increase their aspects. They'll also be glad of the refreshment. We bring in U-Blank, and that should get us the 12. And I think... So it's tempting to go to the Screaming Summit, but in this case I think the Wormnod Kitchen is slightly better because that will give me another cooking station, so I can use even more elements of the soul. Okay. The Moon's Egg, the third and last volume of the Meditations of Abbot Thomas of the Abbey of the Black Dove. Abbot Thomas speaks of the coming death he hears in the sound of the waves, but rejoices that his blood will water the egg of the moon, by which he seems to mean the future. The last chapter was dictated, not written, by Abbot Thomas. When Thomas' sword brother Trygive returned to raid the abbey, Thomas had broken his monastic oaths and taken up arms to defend the abbey. The two had both been mortally wounded. Thomas's last words are, "The wheel turns, the moon sleeps." So I have a bit of restoration work to do here, but... Supper in the evening, so we're still morning. And additional supplies. I can offer my assistant any suitable timber I have lying around. This will increase their aspects. They'll also keep any of the wood that's left over. I also want to make sure I have enough time left to work with the fishermen. Better now. Alright, let it clutter up their shelves. This has improved their aspects appropriately. So I think what we'll do here, let's get Mr. Kill to open up the Wormnod kitchen. This kitchen has clearly been penetrated and polluted by worms, the parasites of the sun. The worms are long gone, but the kitchen will need scouring. It will need decontaminating, and then it will definitely need all its food throwing out, even if it's tinned. Sorry to make him work in his Sunday best. Let's talk to the fishermen about the tryst. So, secret sorrows may join our strengths. Boosts moth and moon. So I wanted to get the use of the element of the soul out of the way first. I'm probably going to be struggling to get everything back on time, but we'll give it a shot. Welcome back, Cured. Hope you're doing well. So I'm kind of curious. Here I imagine it says that we can probably do tea. Oops. What comes, neither of us knows yet, but we will. So I'm going to try and run out the clock as much as I can on restoring elements of the soul. Okay, bringing back the tryst. I need 2 minutes, but then that's kind of the whole day. Yeah, we're not going to do late lunch. We're going to do a proper supper. Little hour called nons, when the doors of the mansis are most tightly closed. For the secular, the hours when we anticipate tea or celebrate it. The jail kitchen. There are no hours at Brandkrug, callers used to say, even before he was governor of Brandkrug Jail, when he was only secretary vigilant of the Curia. By way of reminder, the hands were confiscated from every timepiece within the prison walls. The warders could still rely on the chimes of the great clock in the abbey spire, but it did make life harder for the cooks. So, quite a few items here. So we've got rosehip jam, blackberry jam, eigengrau, and elderflower cordial. We have pickled pilchards, an acquired and unforgettable taste. Dawn Lion coffee, a half pot, Lebitic tincture, skin-shuck mead, honey, cuckoo honey, a pitcher of mist-kissed water, more kitchen bowls, flour, and the kitchen range jail. The food served in Brandkrug Jail was unexpectedly hearty and tasty, in keeping with Collar's more humane theories of rehabilitation. So here we've got scale, lantern, nectar, and grail. In practical terms, this means that Faust and Whist is now accessible for making items. Definitely not going to be visiting the Ravaged Cellar anytime soon, but all in all, I'd say that's a good day's work. Memories don't last long outside books, but it's made a difference for the day. Let's talk to him about the lunar globe. Oh, and actually, to get him to 10, we're still going to need to use both the Armagnac and the mackerel. I think it was the foggy day that allowed me to sneak by with something a little higher. Oh man, we're actually really close to the end of winter now. All right, dusk, night from day, silver from gold, the vesper hour when the priests would honor the rising of the evening star, Menascate. So I should be able to give the fisherman what he needs. So offer something to eat. I can offer my assistant something to eat. This will increase their aspects. It's also just friendly. Let's make sure we serve up a drink in time. Pour out. And I believe we are ready to serve. My guests take their places for supper. Keep an eye on the salon as it progresses. You will need to add soul cards to encourage the conversation to flow. Different guests will need different soul cards. The more guests, the longer the salon will last. Well, I'm quite excited to be starting another salon. Here we go. My guests take their places for supper. I invited guests to supper. Lunch and supper last longer than less formal salons, allowing extra interaction between your guests. Extra time remaining. So five time remaining. Better now. Let's see if we can make something happen with the whist. I'm not banking on it, but, you know, it would be nice. Spice up the conversation. Add an Arab card. Energetic exchanges. Zachary asks Aaron about the fabled war between the Great Hooded Princes and the Obliviates. Aaron favors Zachary with his triangular smile. It wasn't really a war. Mother Many-Armed just took offense at some of their rights. Well, their habits. And we are all still her children. So we get an Edict's Liminal for that. Let's give him, so yeah, we're at 8 of the 10 that we need, so a nice drop. I can offer my assistant something to drink. What's next? Conversation ebbs and flows. Say something witty. Add a Shapt card. No! Who brought the Shapt? Damn it, Zachary! You were the +1. Lively conversation. Stanislav advises Zachary on words of mercy which might quell the urgencies that trouble Zachary's skin. I know that one, Zachary says suddenly. It descends from Keon. Lesson quenchings and quellings. That's actually good for us. I imagine this will run through the night. Down to the Grecians. This has boosted their aspects appropriately. So this is actually a great way to end. So we're going to be opening up the wheel-filled spring. The pool here is filled with rusting and rotting wheels. Was this some attempt to block it, or were the wheels thrown down the well as offerings? In either case, it'll need to be cleaned out, and suitable offerings made to appease the powers to whom this place is holy. So we got 2 rooms and Salon. Oh, not enough Arab. Stanislav and Zachary discuss the merciful measures of the witch Nin. Zachary agrees that her techniques are potent against devourers, but he has become unwilling to use them since he began to fear that he himself might qualify as a devourer. Wistful asides, indistinct and emotion. The tryst card. Zachary asks if Mr. Kill might make a coffin for him. I don't need it yet, he says, but we all might be grateful. Mr. Kill shakes his head slowly. Not his kind of work, but he suggests that Zachary speak of his troubles, and Zachary does so, albeit elliptically, in terms of mirrors, snow, wings, and the twist in the heart. I like that interaction, actually. Okay, spice up the conversation, so we're really blowing it in terms of the elements of the soul that I need. Memories fade, assistance... No, I forgot to save the Thunderskin's Paean. Connie is investigating stories of something described as Spinninable, a kind of spider... Actually... I'm sorry to do this, but what time is the autosave? 12 minutes. I mean, it's not great that I'm going to be losing some of this, but... Oh, that's even before the Salon started. I may wind up regretting this. I'm sorry, everyone. I thought this would be a little bit further in, but... My deal to you is this. I will fast forward where I can. Okay, talk to you about Tryst. I also need to pour the drink again. The lunar globe. Okay, obviously I'm gonna calm the hell down as far as the speed of the interactions go. But the good news is we do have most of my elements of the soul. So now if it's a different order of things, again, it may be a disaster. I should actually maybe save. Just in case I have a similar problem like I did before and I don't save the Thunderskin's paean. Okay, spice up the conversation. Aaron and Stanislav compare the sacred places where it is fitting to spill blood, those where the spilling of blood is welcome, and those where one may only spill one's own. You're not at 10 yet, so get the mackerel. I can offer my assistant something to eat. This will increase their aspects. It's also just friendly. Conversation ebbs and flows. Invite a challenge. Add a metal card. Okay, so it is different each time. Zachary asks Connie for advice on a plan to manage the development of his condition with tattoos of containment. I wish you'd come to me sooner, she breathes. But, of course, she gives him what help she can. This is actually the first we're getting inks of containment, so that's great. Now that night has fallen, I can rest and perhaps dream on the day's doings. Okay, so again, opening up the wheel-filled spring. Raise a complex question. Add a whist card. Okay, so obviously... Oh, Zachary asked Connie for help. These two might say something else on the matter if you invite them both back for another Salon. This is interesting. So I'm actually going to make a note of that. Stanislav and Zachary discuss the merciful measures of the witch Nin. Zachary agrees that her techniques are potent against devourers, but he has become unwilling to use them since he began to fear that he himself may qualify as a devourer. A little redundant here to bring back the whist, seeing as we're so close to the end of the evening, but I wanted to play at least as close to how I was before when I didn't know this would turn out. Conversation ebbs and flows. Instinct and emotion. Add a tryst card. Stanislav advises Zachary on words of mercy, which might quell urgencies that trouble Zachary's skin. I know that one, Zachary says suddenly. It descends from Keon. Alright, instinct and emotion. Add a tryst card. Daybreak. Memories fade, assistance departs, but the soul is refreshed. Zachary confides to Mrs. Kill that he thinks he will eventually be delivered of a kind of child. He asks if she can help. She scrutinizes him and says quietly that she cannot. He asks if she thinks he will live through the birth. She considers for a long time, and then says more quietly that she thinks that he will. He asks at last when she thinks the child might be born. She leans in close and whispers, "I think on a midsummer's day." Hail. We may be able to use this for edge, but there's quite a bit that I'm going to need to see where the day go, or where the Salon goes. So Sacred Spring, the eye marked on the rocks here is not the watchman's eye that decorates the church above, but the eye that marks the temple of the wheel in dreams. The priest of the sun would tell you that there was no sight before the rising of the sun, but those who've drunk from this spring will dream of another sun, one that swung lower in the sky, one that would speak with us, one that would accept friendly gifts of blood from us. So our options are to go to the Slithering Fountain, 14 Edge, 14 Knock, or 14 Scale, or the Room of Rusts, 11 Forge, or 11 Scale. All right, let's wrap up the Salon. Ask about dreams. Add a Fete card. I think this is the last one. Stanislav speaks of a provoking line on the white jade tablet. Our skins were yet soft and fell easily from us. He wonders how Peel's own shedding might be related, but Peel is typically evasive. That's another Rights of the Roots for us. So I think we were trying to go high on Rights of the Roots. I really should be making something of the day here, but I do want to see how this all turns out, because I may... So the challenge I'm facing here is that I want to do something with the edge and the sky, but I also want to do something with unlocking rooms. I'm probably going to try and read the edge book just because this is a rare opportunity, but I'm also going to want to use all these lessons as soon as I possibly can. So something for me to work out, and definitely something if I can think about the order that I'm going to do things. A lively meal concludes. The guests leave happy. You've gained an additional potent memory. All right, so Fete, Trist, Trist, Whist. Meh. Departing guest, a lively Salon. You've held a lively Salon. This is a marker to remind you that you can't hold another one until the next season. Memory satisfaction, a curious hunch, Rights of the Roots, snow stories, quenchings and quellings, 2 of them. Inks of containment, Rights of the Roots. So I think quenchings and quelling... Actually, amazingly, we're already at level 9 for quenchings and quellings, assuming that I can get the memories for that. So that's actually... I'd say that's a good day's work, to be honest. So the easiest thing for me to do here is to learn Inks of Containment. I think I'm going to try and prioritize quenchings and quellings, even if that means I have to get elements of the soul. So what I'm also curious about is I did want to read... you know what, let's not even worry about 7 shards. Although 7 shards would be nice. Actually, 7 shard... the Iron Book is sufficient. Or is it? Okay, so I can get 7 from Edict's Marshal. Ooh, okay, so I do 7 from Edict's Marshal. Let me just put this in... I put this in a slot that I can recall. So we've boosted up Edict's Marshal. We can take the Cucurbit Barrette, which is in the storage. So then we would add the Hail. Okay, I'm at 8 instead of 9. So, yeah, the question is, do I want to risk it? And I honestly, there is no reason to risk it at this point. We can just do the Ascendant. Oh, you know what? I'm still... Well, first of all, the Ascendant's not the one that I want. It's the Iron Book that I want. Although, actually, if it's the Ascend... Well, yeah, no, Edict's Marshal's not a good idea right now. So if you've seen... Yes, this would be sufficient. We can really use anything to read this. This would give me Disciplines of the Hammer, which would be pretty straightforward to level up. Actually, all right, I really should be working this all out on my own. Like, before I commit to stuff, I really should be working this all out, but let's commit to the day. So no Gus, sorry, no hirelings today. I think we're going to focus on... I think we're going to focus on the... on the lessons. So I'll try and explain what I'm doing here. Oh, hello, Justice to All. So the big idea right now is I've done some commitments. It's not the quote-unquote perfect path through the Tree of Wisdoms. I'm going to be going to Hushery 9, and like I'd want Quenchings and Quellings to sort of the max. But here's basically how the day is going to go. So the first priority I would be to try and get Quenchings and Quellings as high as possible. And this is just in case, in the terrible moment of bad luck, if, if the season passes over and it's Numa. If it's Numa, like, I'm just going to cry over losing all of these memories. But I mean, that's a choice that I'm making, right? In terms of the Quenchings and Quellings, the fact that I'm going to be committing effectively 15 elements of the soul to... Actually, maybe it would be a good idea to bring in a visitor just or an assistant just so that I can get the memories. So this only costs money, and I can get them in 5 seconds without using up an element of the soul. So, in a perfect world, I'm able to level up Quenchings and Quellings all the way. Rites of the Roots is also one that I want to level up all the way. So that would be one where I... so Quenchings and Quellings first. Rites of the Roots only requires 3 memories... and then 4, so a total of 7. Now, realistically, I'm not going to get all of that done, but I can push as far as I can. And then a nice to have would be to further advance Edict's Martial. That would be that would be for 4 memories in this case here. But one of the things that I want to do as well, just so I can have some sort of plan Bs, I would actually really like to try and work out exactly where I want to put the remaining elements of the soul and such. So that, again, I don't want to pretend that we're going to run into a Numa, but just in case I do, it would be sort of nice to sort of think about how I'm going to fix that. And obviously taking things like Quenchings and Quellings and putting that in the like dealing with those first, and then, the lesser things are easier to level up inside of Numa, and so it's not as big of a deal. That's kind of how I want to work this all out. But like I said, if I can give myself a bit of information for the next, if I can give myself some information for like the next batch of commitments that I'm going to make, I'll just feel a bit better about it. And it's mostly just because this is one of these rare opportunities that I have where, because I know the game a little bit better, I've not actually sat down and worked out the Tree of Wisdoms the whole way through. For most games that I've played, I have at least one skill which is a surplus. And I may have even worked myself into that state now, but I think if I can just sort of sit down and have a bit of a think about where I want to take things, it'd be really nice if I can get like the maximum level for all the branches of the Tree of Wisdoms. But all of that's going to happen in a future stream. I'm actually really happy we got that Salon done, and I feel a little corny that I did reset it, but I do want to keep the Thunderskins PN, and I mean, Book of Hours is a more forgiving game, so I can justify it. But I gotta wrap up for tonight, so it's the 23rd. I will be back on Monday for more of House of Light. I will also be recording another batch of YouTube videos. Let me just take a second here on the version. Uh, 2024 8H15. Okay. I have some emails that I need to write, but let's find someone to host for the evening. Okay, I don't see anybody streaming. Okay, interestingly enough, I don't see anybody streaming Book of Hours, but I do see somebody streaming Cultist Simulator. It says first time cult leader, Late Primrose. So I don't know who this is, but I will host them just because it's always nice to check out new Cultist Simulator streamers. Nope. Yeah, thank you everybody for watching. Like I said, I'll be back on Monday. I think the next day, the next time that I won't stream will be Labor Day. I need to double check that that's a day that would normally be a streaming day. Otherwise, we will be playing House of Light as long as the beta is going on. Once House of Light's done, I might take a quick break and do some of the other games in between, because of course once the game is released, or the expansion's released, we're going to be doing a lot of House of Light. And then, yeah, I will hopefully have my YouTube series done by then as well, but no promises. Anyways, have a lovely evening. Please treat Late Primrose well, and we will see you in the next one. Take care.